Chapter 1105. When he was very young, Yin Lv could feel that he wasn't welcome in that family. The only family he felt was his grandfather. When Yin Lv was born, his mother passed away, so his father didn't like him very much. That was what he thought before he was 5 years old. When he was 5 years old, he remembered very clearly that when he came back from school, there were many people in the house. Before he entered the house, the nanny took him to the back door. "Young master, there's a guest in front of Mr. You can do your homework here first. When Mr.'s guest leaves, you can go over, okay?" the nanny said to him. Yin Lv nodded in a daze and asked in a young voice, "What guest?" The nanny looked at him deeply and rubbed his head. "Young master, you're still young. Don't ask any more and do your homework obediently." At that time, Yin Lv didn't know that it was pity. He stayed at the back for a long time, but no one came to call him back. He was cold and hungry, so he sneaked into the living room from the kitchen. The living room was very warm. Yin Lv carefully looked for his father in the crowd. His father was wearing a suit and stood in the middle of the crowd. Beside him was a young woman. The woman held his father's arm and smiled. The two of them looked very intimate. The woman was holding a child who looked about his age. "Young master, why are you here?" The nanny from before saw him and carried him into the kitchen quickly. She brought him back to the room. "Young master, stay here for a while. Don't go out, okay?" "Why?" Yin Lv didn't understand. "Who's the woman beside Dad?" The nanny sighed. "Young master, don't ask any more." She turned and left the room. Yin Lv heard the sound of the door being locked. He ran to open the door and sure enough, it was locked. Yin Lv waited in the room until the sky turned dark, but it was getting quieter outside. There was no one. He tried to knock on the door, but no one responded. The nanny was tired from the day. After packing, she couldn't open her eyes and forgot about Yin Lv. Yin Lv was locked up for a night. The next day, the nanny remembered and hurried to find Yin Lv. After being locked up for a night, Yin Lu started to have a high fever. When he was sent to the hospital, he almost received a notice of critical illness. In the end, Yin Lu pulled through. "Where's Dad?" Yin Lv lay on the bed. "Why didn't he come to see me?" The nanny put down the soup. She didn't know how to answer Yin Lv and could only remain silent. Yin Lv continued asking, "Does Daddy not want me anymore?" The nanny couldn't bear it. "It's nothing. Young master, don't think too much. Sir is just busy. When he's done, he'll come and see you." "Really?" The nanny nodded with difficulty. "It's true." But Yin Lv didn't see his father until he was discharged from the hospital. On the day he was discharged from the hospital, his grandfather came. Yin Lu was a little afraid of this grandfather. He always felt that his grandfather had a straight face and was very serious. "Little Louis, have you recovered?" Much better," Yin Lv replied with his head lowered as he shrank into a corner of the car. A small bear suddenly appeared in front of him. Yin Lv raised his head to look at the old man opposite him. The old man still had a straight face. "I saw it on the way here." "For me?" Yin Lv asked carefully. "Yes, for little Louis." Yin Lv thought he saw the old man smile. When he took a closer look, the old man's face was still serious. He must have been mistaken. Yin Lv took the bear. "Thank you, grandfather." The old man sighed and patted his head. Then he didn't say anything else. When Yin Lv returned to the villa, he saw the woman who was standing beside his father. She was holding the boy's hand as they came out. She looked at him condescendingly and disdainfully. "Little Song, stay away from him in the future, okay? Mommy, is he my brother?" "What brother? He's not worthy." The woman snorted and left with the boy. Yin Lv tightened his grip on the bear and returned to his room. Yen Song was the child that the woman had brought. She said that he was her ex-husband's child. Later, Yin Lv found out that it wasn't. He was his father's child with her. That was just a cover-up. When he found out about this, he was 14. Ever since that woman married his father, his life in the Yen family became worse. Yen Song knew how to talk and make his father happy. He had tried before, but his father would look at him with disgust every time. It was as if he was something dirty. When Yen Song and that woman bullied him, his father could only turn a blind eye. Yin Elvi learned to be invisible at home and ignore their mockery. The more he ignored them, the more they wanted a yard. But if he resisted, his father would definitely be angry. He could only endure it. That night he came back late. He was afraid that his father and that woman would find out, so he deliberately lowered his footsteps. Then he heard that incident. Yen Song was his father's biological child, and that woman was the person that his father truly loved. His mother was just a woman who had used tricks to marry into the Yen family. His father hated her, so he hated him too. He didn't know where Yen Song had heard about this and came over to mock him. At the age of 14, he was young and impulsive. Yen Elvi hit Yen Song. That wasn't the first time Yen Elvi hit someone, but it was the best time he had ever hit someone. But he was also beaten up by his father and had to lie in bed for a month. That was how he and Yen Song became enemies. Usually in school, Yen Song would bring people to surround him and beat him up. He didn't want to be beaten up, so he learned to resist. But he still lost. Little bastard, pft. Yen Song kicked Yen Elvi, his face full of disgust. Look at your own status. How dare you go against me? Yen Elvi wanted to get up, but he couldn't. His whole body was in pain. He could only watch as Yen Song left with his men. That was also the first time Yen Elvi saw her. She rode past him on her bicycle. After a while she slowly came back. She observed for a while, as if to see if there was anyone nearby. She dawdled for a long time before walking over and helping him up. Her voice was very soft and had a hint of fear. Are you okay? He was already beaten up like this, but she still asked if he was okay. At that time, Yen Elvi felt that there was something wrong with this girl's brain, and didn't want to talk to her. Hey, say something. Let me help you up first. Yen Elvi didn't want to talk. No matter how the girl called him, he didn't respond. The girl brought him to a clinic. She rummaged in her bag for a long time, before she managed to gather $100. The people at the clinic seemed to know her and didn't care much. He heard the doctor call her Jenny Nan. Yen Elvi didn't take this incident to heart. He left the moment she left. When he left the money for the doctor to pass to her. Chapter 1106. Grandpa, I got first place today. Really? Let me see. Not bad. Back at the villa, he heard Yen Song's voice as soon as he entered. Yen Elvi lowered his head and walked in. Little Elvi. Grandpa's voice suddenly sounded. Yen Elvi could only walk to the living room. He lowered his head and called out softly, Grandpa. Yen Elvi's father was also in the living room. Seeing that he was covered in dirt, he frowned and scolded. What happened? Why did you come back like this? I sent you to school to study, not to fight. Yen Elvi stood with his head lowered. His fine hair covered the emotions in his eyes. He had experienced such things too many times and didn't care anymore. He glanced at Yen Song from the corner of his eye. He was hugging his papers and smiling proudly. He didn't need to think to know what he was thinking. Speak. Are you mute? Yen Elvi's father was furious. Say what? Yen Elvi looked up. Yen Elvi's father suddenly slapped him in the face. With a loud slap, the entire room seemed to quiet down. His scolding was deafening. Look at you now. Your brother always gets first place in the cohort. What about you? You're like a hooligan all day long. Where's your report card? I threw it away. Yen Elvi's father was so angry that his face turned red. Little Song, how many marks did he get this time? Brother didn't take the exam. Yen Song answered obediently. Yen Elvi looked at him coldly. At home, Yen Song always looked like an obedient child. But they didn't know what Yen Song was doing outside. Yen Elvi thought it was a little funny. Hearing Yen Song's words, Yen Elvi's father was even angrier. Why didn't he take the exam? Yen Elvi was silent. His face was burning with pain, but he only felt a coldness that came from his bones. Yen Elvi's attitude made Yen Elvi's father furious. Grandpa Yen stopped Yen Elvi's father, who was about to hit him, and scolded him with a sullen face. He's your child too. He's considered. Yen Elvi's father's voice stopped abruptly. He glared at Yen Elvi and turned to Yen Song. His tone suddenly became gentle. Little Song, follow me to the study. Yen Song nodded obediently and left with his father. When he passed Yen Lv's father, he gave him a gloating look. Yen Lv pretended not to see it. Only Yen Lv and Grandpa Yen were left in the living room. Grandpa Yen didn't say anything. He just looked at him for a while before leaving with his men. At that time, Yen Lv was wondering if he was disappointed. He stood in the living room for a long time, so long that his legs were numb, but he still couldn't come up with an answer. The real incident happened on the day of Grandpa Yan's 70th birthday. All these years, the only person he cared about was his grandfather, although it was only occasionally. He picked out a gift for Grandpa Yan and prepared to give it to him at the birthday banquet. When the birthday banquet was about to start, he realized that the gift was gone. He searched many places but to no avail. At this time, Yen Song happened to be giving his grandfather a gift, and that gift happened to be his. He didn't fly into a rage on the spot, and allowed Yen Song to mock and ridicule him. When the banquet was about to end, Yen Lu invited Yen Song to the swimming pool at the back. Initially, he only wanted to beat Yen Song up. However, when they were fighting, Yen Song pushed him into the pool, and even wanted to drown him. Yen Song was dead. That woman wanted him to pay with his life. His father didn't say anything and beat him up first. That was the first time he fought back against his father. He had enough of them. In the end, he wasn't sent to the police station. Grandpa Yen bailed him out. However, he had nothing to do with the Yen family from then on. He was chased out of the Yen family. You don't believe me either? The youngster stood in the heavy rain, his entire body drenched. He stopped the car and stubbornly asked the old man in the car. The rain blocked the old man's face. Yen Lv couldn't see it clearly. He only remembered what he said. Leave this place and don't come back. He left. According to Grandpa Yan's arrangements, he stayed abroad for a few years. However, he still came back. He didn't know why, but it was as if something had guided him back. He didn't alert anyone when he returned. He wandered outside for a long time. He didn't know what he was looking for, but his instincts told him that he must have found something. The next time he saw her was at Inglan's school gate. She stood at the school gate and looked up at Inglan's gate. He didn't know what she was looking at. She only left when the sky turned dark. Yen Lv followed her all the way. He knew that she was looking for a job, but she couldn't find one. Yen Lv thought of a way to get her a job application at Inglan. Inglan's job application was the first threshold. It was equivalent to an invitation. Only teachers who received the job application could apply for the job. At that time, Yen Lv didn't expect her to apply. At that time, Yen Lv didn't feel that she was different. He helped her as a way of returning the favor for sending him to the clinic. She was able to enter Inglan because of her own ability. Hence, Yen Lv didn't pay attention to her after that. But that time on the rooftop, Yen Lv knew that he had found what he was looking for. They were clearly the same person. But she gave him a completely different feeling. She was like a light, attracting him like a moth to a flame. Actually, the rooftop's door could be opened. The door itself was broken. After she left, he went up and locked the door. There was no reason. He just wanted to teach the person who bullied her a lesson. After that, Yen Lv moved to her dormitory. When they met officially for the first time, he could clearly feel her murderous intent towards him. After that, he didn't feel it anymore. Instead, he felt an indescribable emotion. She would always look at him without restraint, as if she was thinking about something. He liked it when her gaze was on him, but sometimes he felt that he was very far away from her. It was as if they were separated by 1,000 mountains and 10,000 forests. It was very unreal. Yen Lv didn't like this feeling. He wanted to have her completely. She said that he liked cute and obedient girls. It was impossible for him to be cute. After all, they had been together for so many years. But he could be obedient. If she liked it, then he would do it. When he kissed her that time, Yen Lv was very nervous, but he still did it. After that time, he could clearly feel that she was not so guarded against him. Although she would still beat him, she would not leave after every beating. She would take note of the food he didn't like to eat. At night, she would wait for him to come back before going to sleep. She would smile at him casually. That kind of smile was something he had never seen after getting close to her. It was very gentle. It was so gentle that he wanted to drown in it and never wake up. Just keep your sharp claws in front of me. I don't want you to be controlled by others outside. My future is only with you. I will always be by your side. If she likes it, then I will give it to her. I am willing to keep all my sharp claws and live under your wings. Yanelvi. Chapter 1107. The host was dead. The cause of death was the same. Strangled. The female lead didn't say that she saw the criminal that night. She chose to hide it. The female lead didn't save her, and led the criminal to someone else. Then she hid the truth. This proved that this was a dark novel. The host hadn't found her identity yet. She wanted to know who she was. She wanted to leave the hospital and go outside. She didn't want to die like this, so it was normal for her to have resentment. The host had a lot of wishes. She wanted to find out who she was, catch the criminal to avenge herself, leave the hospital, and live a normal life. As for the female lead, she didn't know if it was because she had too many wishes that the host forgot about them. Shisheng received the plot, and only wanted to say 2 words. Fuck. These were the words host. Remove the 2 words in the middle. Host, you're swearing. I didn't say anything. Don't be so dirty. Calm down, calm down. The host can lie through her teeth easily. Why bother with her? It needed to go offline. Shisheng walked around the ward. Thanks to the host's violence, she had a room to herself. Normal lunatics who were not aggressive usually stayed in a room with 2 or 3 people. The host could live here for so long. It proved that someone paid for it. The cost of a mental hospital was huge. Normal people couldn't afford it. Although the host didn't have memories before she was 18, some instincts didn't need to be remembered. From her habits, she had been trained in etiquette. Shisheng was already imagining a million words of love and hatred in his mind. This was a cannon fodder with a story. Okay. She didn't understand what the system added. None of the cannon fodder she took over didn't have a story. Life was full of drama. The little tadpole should find its mother slowly. She had to deal with the idiot who wanted to kill her first. This building had a total of 8 floors. The 5th floor and above was filled with aggressive psychopaths. She just happened to live on the boundary of the 5th floor, and the original owner's aggression was relatively strong. She was still able to move because she was awake for more time than when she was sick. It could be seen how scary the people living on the 3rd floor were. My child, don't be afraid. Mommy is coming to save you. You have to wait for mommy. A man stood in the corridor, affectionately performing to the painting on the wall. Shisheng stood there for a while and said, "You're a man. You should say daddy." The man turned his head and seemed to be thinking about Shisheng's words. The next second, he suddenly sat down on the ground. "You're a bad guy. Daddy, save me. Daddy, there's a bad guy here. Come and chase the bad guy away." Shisheng walked forward silently. He was not going to argue with a lunatic. "Son, you are my son. If I plant you in the ground, you will produce many sons next year." Shisheng got a kettle out of nowhere and handed it to the woman who spoke. "You need to water it." Yes, water him." The woman took the kettle and poured water on the head of the squatting man. "There's going to be an earthquake tomorrow. Run. There was an earthquake yesterday. You died." Shisheng walked over calmly. The man suddenly fell to the ground and muttered, I'm dead. Shisheng went down to the ground floor. There were even more lunatics downstairs. Shisheng had a foul mouth and would say a few words when he passed by. Everywhere he passed, there was chaos. Other than quarreling and fighting, the nurses usually did not care. Therefore, no one cared about those lunatics who cried, laughed, and screamed. "Where's my dragon throne?" Shisheng turned his head and asked a nurse who was supporting a patient. The nurse was young and probably had not been here for long. After seeing who it was, she quickly helped the patient to the side and sat down. "I'll go get it for you." Shisheng glared at her. "You have to call me emperor." "Nurse, don't argue with a lunatic, don't argue with a lunatic, don't argue with a lunatic, don't argue with a lunatic." After the nurse recited the first rule of the hospital 3 times in her heart, she smiled. "Your Majesty, I'll get you the dragon throne now." "Go." Shisheng waved his hand. The nurse quickly came back with a chair. According to Emperor Sheng's instructions, She placed it in a place where it could bask in the sun. Shisheng lay down and did not move. The nurse heaved a sigh of relief. This person looked scary when he had a relapse. It was better when he was not. He looked quite normal. Well, now that he was normal, he did not look so normal. She had to tell the doctor that this person's condition was serious again. The nurse observed Shisheng for a while and called him twice. When he did not move, she left to take care of other patients. Not long after the nurse left, a figure crept near Shisheng. She carefully approached Shisheng and called him softly. Enchi, wake up. After calling him twice, there was no response. She reached out to push Shisheng. Just as her fingers touched him, the person on the chair suddenly grabbed her hand. There's an assassin. Shisheng's voice was very loud. The nurse, who did not dare to go far, heard the voice and immediately came over. What's wrong? Xiaolu, what are you doing here? You knew that this person was going to beat someone up. Why did you still get close to him? To outsiders, Sulu had a mental problem, but no one knew what it was. But in the nurse's eyes, Sulu was probably the most normal person among these lunatics. Shisheng grabbed Sulu. She has bad intentions towards me. Do you think she's taken a liking to me? Ugh. You are both women. Don't think that you have something to say just because you keep calling me me. Your Majesty, she just accidentally walked into the wrong room. I'll take her away now. The nurse said as she went to pull Sulu. Shisheng did not force her. If you dare to show up in front of me again, I'll beat you up every time I see you. Yes, Your Majesty. We'll leave now. The nurse pulled Sulu away. Sulu looked at Shisheng strangely. She asked the nurse, "What's wrong with Enchi?" The nurse pointed at her head. Her condition might have worsened. Don't go to her. She has a relapse. It's very dangerous. Sulu was stunned. Could it be that what happened last night had worsened her condition? Thinking of what happened last night, Sulu's expression changed. She looked at Shisheng. She had to find a chance to ask him about it. Sulu chatted with the nurse for a while. The nurse had other patients to take care of, so she did not have time to chat with her. Sulu carefully moved towards Shisheng. Shisheng glanced at her from the corner of his eye, then closed his eyes and ignored her. The more the female lead collapses, the better. It'll be easier for me to kill you. Host, do you know that your thoughts are very dangerous? Didn't you go offline? Can't I go online? If you go up and down a few more times, maybe you won't have the final say when you go online, or when you go offline. Master, this system is going to self-destruct. Asterisk, this is a fake group. Little Fairy, I've been so busy recently. You guys don't even vote for me. Cherub, I can't see you don't want to vote. Little Fairy, I didn't expect you guys to love me so much. I'm so touched. Cherub, you're thinking too much. I just can't argue with you. I don't want to vote. Little Fairy, a friend, goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Chapter 1108. Sulu finally moved to Shisheng's side. Before she could say anything, the person who had been lying down just now stood up and walked straight to the flower beds in the distance. Sulu glanced at the nurse and gritted her teeth as she followed. The flower beds were piled up one after another. Soon the nurse's line of sight was blocked. In the blink of an eye, the person who had been in front of Sulu had disappeared. She took a few quick steps forward. Suddenly, a black figure jumped out of the flower bed in front of her and threw her into the flower bed beside it. There were thorny roses in the flower bed. The sharp thorns pierced her back, and she felt a sharp pain. However, this pain was nothing compared to the fear in her heart. A clear voice sounded above her head. Why are you following me? Sulu turned her head and saw a familiar face. Unlike before, the expression on her face was exceptionally cold. She looked like a cold-blooded murderer she had met a long time ago. The nurse had said that her condition had worsened. It seemed that it was true. Enchi, don't be nervous. I'm Sulu. Sulu wasn't sure if she had seen her clearly last night, so she was testing the waters. Shisheng grabbed Sulu's neck. I'm asking you why you're following me. Are you trying to kill me? Her hand was cold and smelled like mud. Sulu felt that it wasn't a hand that was strangling her, but a poisonous snake that could strangle her at any time. No, I'm not. I just want to talk to you. Su Li's voice was distorted. What do I have to talk to you about? Are you crazy? Sheng continued to strangle her. Su Li's eyes almost rolled back. You're the one who's crazy. Of course, she couldn't say this out loud. If she said it, she would go crazy and die. Sheng narrowed her eyes. If she strangled the female lead here. Hey, what are you doing? Sheng. A nurse ran over from afar. When she saw the situation in the flower bed, she immediately scolded Sheng. What are you doing? And she come down. Sheng was unmoved. And she, do you want to starve again? The nurse threatened Sheng. Sheng rolled his eyes at her and punched the female lead in front of the nurse. Then he slowly walked down the stairs. Su Li covered his face as the taste of blood filled his mouth. This lunatic. When the nurse saw Sheng, she stepped back in fear. She was probably afraid that Sheng would hit her. Sheng raised his fist at her. The nurse was so scared that she covered her head, screamed, and hid on the other side of the flower bed. After Sheng left arrogantly, the nurse breathed a sigh of relief. She hurriedly called the other nurses and asked them to bring the tranquilizer to find the patient, so that he wouldn't hurt the other patients. After the nurse finished the call, she went to the flower bed to check on Su Li. Su Li pressed down on a patch of roses, and his back was already bleeding. Xiao Li, how did you provoke her? Su Li sucked in a cold breath and felt depressed. I just said a few words to her. Who knew that she would suddenly attack me? I'll take you to the doctor first. Don't get close to her in the future. The nurse had seen more vicious people than Sheng, so she didn't think it was a big deal. Isn't Qi's illness getting worse? Su Li pretended to ask casually. The doctor is going to do a test later. If it's really getting worse, we'll have to send her to the 6th floor. Usually, Su Li got along well with these nurses, so the nurses treated it as if they were just chatting with Su Li. The patients on the 5th floor could still move around, because they would only be aggressive when they had an attack. They weren't particularly vicious. As long as the nurse took good care of them, there wouldn't be any problems. Things were different above the 6th floor. There was a metal door on the 6th floor. The patients on the 6th floor were not allowed to go downstairs. Some patients could move around in the corridor, while others could only be locked in their rooms. That's strange. Officer Zhou hasn't come today. I'm always worried that we can't catch the culprit after such a thing happened in the hospital. The nurse changed the topic. Su Li didn't change her mind. She just followed the nurse's words. When Sheng returned to her room, her attending doctor arrived. His surname was Yan. He was quite handsome, but a little old. He was already married. However, according to the lunatics in the hospital, this Dr. Yin seemed to have an improper relationship with a young nurse in the hospital. Lunatics' words couldn't be trusted. Sometimes lunatics could be normal. They would squat in all kinds of corners and let the nurses find them for fun. Therefore, it wasn't strange to see them. Did you hit someone again today? Dr. Yin didn't do a checkup first. Instead, he chatted with Sheng. Sheng sat cross-legged on the bed. He raised his chin slightly and looked like he was the most powerful person in the world. I'm the emperor. What's wrong with hitting someone? I'm already being merciful by not implicating their entire family. Dr. Yan sized up Sheng and raised a finger. What's this? 3. What about this? 5. Retard. Dr. Yan. Being called a retard by a lunatic was also a sweet experience. Dr. Yin took a deep breath. Lie down on the bed. What are you doing? I don't want you to sleep with me. Sheng covered his lapel with a guarded expression. Let me do a checkup for you. Your Majesty should take care of yourself, right? You can't fall sick. If you don't do a checkup, you'll fall sick. Dr. Yin was obviously experienced in dealing with patients. I won't do it. You want to take this opportunity to harm me? Get out. Sheng grabbed the pillow next to him and threw it at Dr. Yin. Tranquilizer. Dr. Yin ordered the nurse behind him. The nurse immediately took out the tranquilizer. This time, 2 nurses came forward together. It was obvious that they wanted to be strong. So what if you have a tranquilizer? When the first nurse tried to grab her, Sheng grabbed her hand and pressed her down on the bed. He snatched the tranquilizer from the other nurse's hand and inserted it into the nurse's butt. Ah! After a short scream, the nurse collapsed on the bed. Everyone. Was her illness serious enough to be quarantined? Shisheng flipped his hair and looked at Dr. Yan. Aren't you going to do a checkup? You're not going to do it? Was she back to normal? Dr. Yan called out tentatively, and she. What? Dr. Yan waved his hand and motioned for the nurse behind him to calm down. He asked Shisheng a few questions and made sure that she was back to normal. Then he began the checkup. Dr. Yan didn't say anything to Shisheng on the spot, but when the nurses left, they looked at Shisheng strangely. These people probably wanted her to be locked up upstairs. After all, she would act up and hit people from time to time. It was dangerous to be with her. You never knew when she would hit you. After the nurses left, Shisheng locked the door. There were surveillance cameras in the room, so she hid in the toilet. She took out a phone. The screensaver was a cute child with a bright smile. He was innocent and romantic. She had taken it from Dr. Yan. Staying here was no different from being in jail. There were no electronic devices at all. Chapter 1109. Shisheng turned on the hotspot on his phone and took out his tablet. He tried to connect it before he started typing away. She didn't have much time. The doctor would definitely call when he realized that his phone was missing. Sure enough, a call came in a few minutes later. She had just put the tablet back when the door opened. And she. Dr. Yan's voice came from outside. Where is she? She should be in the toilet. The nurse's voice was close to the toilet. Before she could open the toilet, the door opened and Shisheng stood inside. What are you doing? Why do you care when I'm taking a dump? Dr. Yan was speechless. She's acting up again. I can't argue with a psychopath. Dr. Yan took a deep breath. And did you see my phone? This. Shisheng waved the phone in his hand. Dr. Yan's heart skipped a beat. His phone should have been in his pocket. When did she take it? Of course, now was not the time to think about this. He had to take the phone back. He calmed himself down and tried to maintain the smile on his face. Yes, it's mine. Can you give it back? Shisheng came online. You think it's yours just because you say so? Everything here belongs to me. Who are you to say that it's yours? Dr. Yan was speechless. Shisheng was standing outside the toilet, so they couldn't do anything. Dr. Yan could only say sullenly, You gave it to me. Did you forget? Shisheng shouted, Bullshit. I don't even have this thing. Why would I give it to you? Dr. Yan's mouth twitched. He pointed at the phone. Open it and see. My photo is inside. Why is your photo in it? Because it's my phone. My photo in it proves that it's mine. Dr. Yan's expression cracked, but he wasn't as nervous as before. It's really yours? Dr. Yan nodded. It's mine. Shisheng glanced at the phone and threw it to Dr. Yan. Dr. Yan caught it in a hurry and didn't let it fall to the ground. You can leave. Shisheng waved his hand like an emperor. Dr. Yan was speechless. Dr. Yan was beyond cure. Dr. Yan checked the phone to make sure there were no strange marks before he left with the nurses. Dr. Yan, what about Enchi's illness? The nurse asked Dr. Yan carefully. Dr. Yan looked into the room through the glass on the door. The girl was sitting in the middle of the room with her head lowered. Her hair covered her face. Dr. Yan retracted his gaze. Let's wait for the results. Shisheng definitely did not know the results of the examination. After all, she was a psychopath in their eyes. Who would talk to a psychopath about these things? However, she had been moved to the 6th floor, which meant that her condition had worsened. Compared to the 5th floor, the 6th floor was even more lifeless. Shisheng walked down the corridor and saw a patient in a hospital gown sitting on a chair, staring blankly at the ceiling. Beside him stood a male caregiver wearing a face mask. The rooms next to them were all closed. From the observation window, they could see that some of the rooms were occupied while others were empty. Shisheng's room was near the end of the corridor, and the nurses moved her things upstairs. The head nurse stood at the door and said to a man dressed as a nurse, She's awake sometimes. When she's awake, you can let her out to move around, but you have to be careful at all times. If she says she's sick, then she's sick. The nurse flipped through the information. Got it. The nurses left the room. The male nurse looked at Sheng for a while before leaving and closing the door behind him. It was finally King quiet. The fifth floor was like a wet market. At night, they could hear the cries of ghosts and howls of wolves. Sheng sat on the bed under the blanket. First, he had to find the murderer, who killed the original owner. At that time, he was wearing a nurse's uniform. Since he was able to appear here at night, he was most likely a nurse. It was a pity that he did not see what he looked like. There were many male nurses in this mental hospital. After all, sometimes when the patients were sick, they needed a man to subdue them. Sheng curled up under the blanket and connected to the hospital's network with a tablet. He directly hacked into the hospital's database. He searched for the original owner's information. It was similar to what the original owner had seen. There were only medical records and some unimportant information. There was not even a contact's phone number. Since he did not find anything, Sheng began to search for information on the nurses. This hospital was quite rich. There were dozens of nurses who had signed contracts with the hospital, not to mention some short-term workers. Short-term workers were hired when the hospital was too busy. They were paid on an hourly basis. There were so many nurses. Sheng searched for a long time and picked out a total of 6 nurses who looked similar to the one she had seen that day. Sheng looked at the photos one by one. She covered their faces and looked at their eyes. However, none of them matched the pair of eyes she saw that day. How can there be none of them? Sheng flipped through the photos and compared all the male nurses' photos. None of them matched the one she saw. This did not make sense. She could not have remembered wrongly. If she did not remember wrongly, then that man might not be a nurse. If he was not a nurse, did he sneak in? Sheng hacked into the surveillance system to check the surveillance footage of that day. The surveillance footage in the staircase showed that she was dragged to the stairwell by the man. After she kicked the door open, the man stumbled down the stairs. When he reached the second floor, the surveillance footage there seemed to be broken. There was no trace of the man after that. The murderer called for help at that time. The people in the hospital must know him. Otherwise, he would not have dared to call for help. Do I have to ask the nurses who was the one who was beaten up by me that day? Sheng lifted the blanket and sat up. It seemed that she could do that. She walked to the door and pulled it open. However, there was a nurse standing outside the door. The nurse looked at her cautiously. What's the matter? Sheng replied calmly. Go down and get some sunlight. You can't go down. The 6th floor had its own rules. The patients here were only allowed to move around in the corridor. They were not allowed to go downstairs. I'm very conscious now. The nurse shook her head formally. That's not okay. The sunlight can reach there. You go there. The nurse pointed to a relatively large balcony. At this time, the sunlight was shining on it, and one could feel its warmth from afar. There were already 2 people in hospital gowns on the balcony. One of them was sitting on a chair against the wall, shaking his head and talking about something. The other was standing in front of a plant, playing a game of you shoot, I shoot, with the plant. The 2 nurses stood outside the balcony and looked at them. Sheng was about to look away when the patient who was still sitting suddenly stood up and pounced on the other patient. He was still shouting. I told you to shut up. Shut up. Don't you understand? You're disturbing my thinking. Shut up. I told you to shut up. The patient who was being attacked did not want to be outdone. He picked up his partner, a tree branch, and stuffed it into the patient's mouth. Sheng took a step back. That's so King cruel. Are you sure you want me to stay with them? Sheng turned to ask the nurse. Chapter 11:10. The nurse was already used to this. Her face was expressionless under the mask. You're alone now. The nurse pulled the 2 of them apart and escorted them back to their respective rooms. Only the leaves that the psychopath had pulled off were left on the balcony. Sheng was speechless. She might have dug a pit for herself. Forget it. She would deal with whatever came her way. Sheng walked towards the balcony. When she passed by one of the rooms, she saw the nurse injecting a patient with something like a tranquilizer. The patient struggled a few times and soon calmed down. Then, Shisheng saw the nurse kick the patient to vent her anger a few times before carrying him to the hospital bed. It was common to be bullied by the staff in a mental hospital. Shisheng was speechless. Police, I want to call the police. Someone is abusing a patient here. It's too cruel. The nurse behind Shisheng saw her staring at the room. She went forward and pulled the door to block Shisheng's view. These nurses must be in cahoots. Scary. Shisheng calmly looked away and walked towards the balcony. As soon as she stepped into the sunlight, the chill on her body disappeared. It was warm and comfortable. Shisheng leaned on the balcony and looked down. There were many people moving around in the courtyard. There were all kinds of people shouting. Some were running around with bedsheets wrapped around their bodies. The nurses were chasing after them. Some were hugging a tree and rubbing against it. Demons were dancing around. Shisheng looked around, and her gaze fell on Sulu in the corner. A tall man was standing in front of her. This man was Zhou Ning. Zhou Ning looked a little haggard. He didn't even shave and kept smoking. There were cigarette butts all over the floor. There was no progress in the case at the hospital. Only Sulu and Shisheng knew about what happened that night. It seemed that she didn't tell Zhou Ning about it. What was the female lead trying to do? Zhou Ning put out the cigarette butt, patted Su Li's shoulder, and left. Su Li stood there for a while, then turned and went inside. Shisheng retracted her gaze. The moment she turned around, she was met with a pale face. Shisheng took a step back. Who are you? Damn it, when did he stand behind her? He didn't even make a sound. He scared her to death. There was a man in a white coat standing opposite him. A doctor? However, his face was frighteningly pale. He didn't look like a normal person at all. He went downstairs, catch him quickly. A voice came from the balcony upstairs. The nurse who was watching over the Shisheng also came forward at this time. She had probably received the news from the higher-ups and was ready to catch the man. The man glanced at the Shisheng and quickly jumped down from the balcony. The nurse caught nothing. He climbed up the balcony and looked down. The man was like Spider-Man. He went downstairs in a few moves and quickly disappeared from their sight. Shisheng turned to the nurse and asked, "Is there such a patient in your hospital? Are the patients nowadays so King amazing?" The nurse was also a little confused. "I don't think so. Hidden mission. Forsake the darkness for the light. Help the mission target walk towards the light." Shisheng. What the hell? What did it mean to help the mission target walk towards the light? According to the literal meaning, all he had to do was stand under the sun, right? The point was who the F***CK was the mission target. There used to be a name, but now there was no name? Buttface, you've changed. You're Buttface. The system wanted to remind Shisheng, but after hearing her call him Buttface, the system decided to go offline. Where is he? Several people came out of the corridor and asked the nurse next to Shisheng. The nurse pointed in the direction where the man had disappeared. He ran that way. Without another word, the nurses ran back to catch the escaped criminal. Ah no, the patient. Who is that man? The appearance of this man just now meant that the hidden mission had appeared. The nurse was also confused. I don't know him. I've never seen him before. When did the 7th floor take in such a powerful patient? Shisheng heard that the patient had been caught. He had just been brought in yesterday. Who knew that he was so powerful? Shisheng tried to browse the plot again. There was no other information except for the male and female leads. Rubbish system. The system got shot even though it was lying down. The patient was locked up on the 8th floor. The 8th floor was a living prison. There were iron bars everywhere. It was harder to climb up than to climb to the sky. Shisheng gave up looking for the patient on the 8th floor and decided to deal with the murderer first. Shisheng had been acting like a normal person for the past few days. He didn't get sick even once. With Dr. Yan's permission, the nurse allowed him to move freely in the corridor. Shisheng was squatting next to the nurse and chatting with him. Your job is like this all day long. Isn't it annoying? It's all about supporting the family. Compared to other places, the salary here is the highest. Have you all signed a contract with the hospital? Long-term workers like us definitely have to sign a contract. The nurse suddenly scolded and rushed out. Don't disturb official business. Put that thing down. There were 2 patients on duty, who were tormenting the green potted plant in the corridor. Crash. The potted plant was not spared. There was only 1 nurse, but there were 2 people on the other side. They scratched and scratched at him. One of the patients even grabbed the soil on the ground and stuffed it into the nurse's mouth. Shisheng. It's really scary. I'm scared to death. The patient who stuffed the nurse's mouth with soil was obviously the patient who grabbed a tree branch and stuffed it into the patient's mouth. Shisheng knew him. He lived next door. His name was Lu Yong. He felt like he was a plant, and he talked to the plant all day long. He was a late-stage psychopath. There was no hope. Help? The nurse was pressed to the ground. He grabbed a patient's hand and shouted in the direction of the corridor. The other patient was holding a broken piece of porcelain and was about to smash it on the nurse's head. TSK. If the nurse was smashed to death, there shouldn't be any criminal liability, right? No. If the nurse was smashed to death, who would talk to her about information? It was not easy for her to get familiar with the nurse. It would be troublesome for her to get familiar with the new nurse. Shisheng hurried forward to grab the patient's collar and pulled him aside. She lifted her leg and kicked Lu Yong off the caregiver. The caregiver immediately called for help through the walkie-talkie when his hands and feet were free. It happened to be the time for a shift change. One of the patients on duty with the nurse happened to go to the toilet. That was why this happened. When the people on the other side arrived and dragged the 2 patients back to the room, the nurse heaved a sigh of relief. He thanked Shisheng. Thank you. If she hadn't pulled the 2 people away, his head would have probably exploded. I had other intentions. It was nothing. The nurse sized up Shisheng. She had been on the 6th floor for a long time, but he had never seen her sick. If it wasn't for the information clearly written on her file, he would have thought that this girl was normal. My name is Deng Jun. The nurse scratched his head. You can go back to the room first. I'll clean up here. Chapter 11:11. Shisheng received some snacks from Deng Jun that night. I didn't know which ones you like, so I just bought some for you. Thank you. Shisheng placed the bag on the table beside her. Are you working the night shift? Deng Jun nodded. Yes. Call me if you need anything. I'm going out now. Dr. Yen asked the same questions as usual during his ward rounds at night. In the end, he suddenly asked about what had happened this afternoon. And I heard that you saved a nurse's life this afternoon? I forgot. Shisheng lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Dr. Yan's mouth twitched. You forgot everything that happened this afternoon? I'm so busy every day. How can I remember so much? Shisheng rolled her eyes. Dr. Yan was speechless. Why did this girl act up as soon as he arrived? Dr. Yan ordered the nurse. Give her the medicine. The nurse pushed the trolley forward and took out her medicine. She handed it to Shisheng. I don't want to take it now. Leave it here. Dr. Yan didn't say anything. He asked the nurse to put the medicine down. Remember to take it. The nurse will come and collect it later. After Dr. Yan left, Shisheng glanced at the medicine bottle and threw all the medicine into her space. She wasn't sick at the moment. If she took the medicine, she might get sick. Shisheng lay on the bed and pondered about life. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside the corridor. The soundproofing on the 6th floor was quite good. She could hear it even from inside, which showed how big the commotion outside was. She jumped off the bed and tried to open the door. It was locked. The door would be locked at night. She could only look outside through the glass. The young nurses brought by Dr. Yen were screaming as they ran downstairs. Her vision was limited. She could only vaguely hear that Dr. Yen was injured. It was dangerous to work in a mental hospital. Lunatics could cause trouble at any moment. It took a while for the outside to quiet down. The nurses went to check the wards one by one. When Deng Jun came to check the ward, Shisheng took the opportunity to ask him, "What's going on outside?" Lu Yong is acting up. Dr. Yen is injured. Deng Jun quickly checked the windows and left the room. Lu Yong injured a doctor. He would probably be sent upstairs. The next day, when the Shisheng got up and walked around, he didn't see Lu Yong. He guessed that Lu Yong had been sent upstairs. Sheng leaned on the balcony and looked at the group of lunatics below. Sulu was standing below. She was chatting with the nurse. She probably noticed that someone was staring at her. She turned her head and looked around. Then she looked up. Seeing the person standing on the balcony of the 6th floor, Su Li's expression changed slightly. Sheng was on the 6th floor, so Su Li couldn't have gone upstairs to look for her. However, she hadn't heard anything for a long time. Su Li felt that she hadn't seen her that night. Xiao Lo, why are you standing there? Officer Zhou is calling you. A nurse waved at Su Li from afar. Su Li quickly regained her senses and looked at the nurse. Coming. She turned to look upstairs again. It was empty. There was no one there. Su Li pinched the hem of his shirt and ran towards the nurse. He followed the nurse to see Zhou Ning. Big brother Zhou. Su Li greeted. Xiao Lo, you're here. Have a seat. Zhou Ning frowned. Has there been anything unusual recently? Su Li was nervous. She carefully observed Zhou Ning. Nothing unusual. And she was sent to the 6th floor. Ordinary patients can't go up to the 6th floor. Su Li paused for a moment. Will the murderer stop? Su Li hadn't been sleeping well for the past few days. She would wake up when she heard the slightest movement outside. She was afraid that the murderer would come looking for her again. She regretted telling Zhou Ning that she was being chased by the murderer. However, it was too late now. She couldn't tell him. Xiao Li? What's wrong? Su Li was shocked. She glanced at Zhou Ning and quickly lowered her head. Nothing. Don't give yourself too much pressure. This is a police matter. You should rest more. Zhou Ning patted Su Li's shoulder. Su Li pinched the hem of her shirt. I also want to catch the murderer as soon as possible. In Zhou Ning's opinion, Su Li was still a patient. He had to think of another way. Zhou Ning and Su Li chatted for a while before Zhou Ning left the hospital in a hurry. When Su Li returned, she glanced at the balcony again. She clenched her fists. She had to catch the murderer quickly. Sheng sat in front of the table in his room and drew. He had recently learned a lot from Deng Jun, and the others had a contract with the hospital. They were long-term workers. The nurses on the 5th floor and below didn't have a contract with the hospital. They were paid by the hour. The information of these people wasn't recorded in the computer. There was only a booklet with the guards. As long as they matched the person, the guards would let them in. This meant that the murderer was very likely to be one of these people. Why was it so annoying? Sheng threw the booklet away. I don't care who you are. Sheng ate and slept all day on the 6th floor. Other than chatting with Deng Jun, he didn't do anything else. The system felt that its host was holding back a big move. It could accept that she didn't investigate the murderer. However, it was too abnormal that she didn't even look for Feng Ci. The 8th floor is full of iron railings. I would be courting death if I went up there. Sheng couldn't help but complain. You're afraid of iron railings? I'm afraid of many things. She was also human. Was it strange that she was afraid of things? There was nothing wrong with it. Hee. I've never seen the host afraid of anything. What does it have to do with whether I dare to kill it or not? It doesn't seem to matter. It seems to matter. The system was a little confused. It had to slow down. In the middle of the night, Sheng suddenly sat up. She scratched her head and looked out of the window. The moonlight outside was cold and cheerless. It was hazy like a layer of gauze. The moonlight poured in through the window and lit up the room with a chill. She moved to the window and looked down. It was dark and she couldn't see anything. But face, are you dead? The system you called is not online. I told you, don't call me Buttface. Believe it or not, I'll make sure you never go online. The system was silent for a while. What do you want? Help me block the hospital's surveillance. You can do it yourself. Why do you want me to help you? You're now mine. Do you have a problem with helping me do something? I want to go offline. You can try going offline. The system weighed the pros and cons and decided to endure the humiliation. Item needed. Buy it. It wasn't expensive now anyway. Host, you're really going to get beaten up. Not only did you blackmail me, you even want to enslave me. Don't let the system turn over, or else, I'd better turn over first. The system exchanged for an item in the system store. A few seconds later, it told Shisheng that it was ready. Asterisk, this is a fake group. Little Fairy, vote. Cherub, no more fancy votes? Little Fairy, I'm too lazy to ask. Vote if you don't want to. Cherub, system, are you out of love? System owner, maybe I'm stuffed with dog food. Shisheng, it's not me. I'm not online yet. Cherub, vote then. System, this is a fancy vote. Identification complete. Chapter 11-12. Shisheng jumped out of the window and landed lightly on the ground. Then she walked to the back of the building. The entire hospital was quiet. The wind brought with it a faint smell of blood. As she got closer, the smell of blood became stronger. No, the murderer had strangled the victims to death, so there wouldn't be such a strong smell of blood. Shisheng paused. She took out an invisibility talisman and pasted it on herself. Then she continued walking. The more she walked, the more desolate the place became. However, the smell of blood became stronger. Just as Shisheng was about to make a turn, she heard a shrill meow in front of her. It sounded as if someone had stepped on its tail. It was very miserable. Shisheng. Mama is a psychopath. Ah no, there's a murderer. She rushed over and looked in that direction. The moonlight was very bright. There seemed to be a black figure standing in the bushes. The meow had disappeared. The black figure was holding the cat in his hand. The black figure carried the cat into the darkness and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Shisheng waited for a while. Then she slowly moved over. There was a corpse on the ground. He was wearing a hospital gown. It was covered in blood. There was a big hole in his chest. His heart was missing, so cruel. Russell. Shisheng looked behind her. A black figure flashed past and entered the building she was staying in. About 3 minutes later, she heard a scream. It was very familiar. It was Su Li's voice. Because of Su Li's scream, the originally dark building suddenly lit up. In the blink of an eye, the building was brightly lit. A commotion could be heard coming from the building. The black figure that had darted in earlier ran out, clutching his arm as he ran toward Shisheng. When he ran past Shisheng kicked him, and he fell to the ground. There was no one in front of him, but he was kicked to the ground. A trace of fear appeared in the man's eyes. He quickly looked around but didn't see anything. He struggled to get up from the ground. Suddenly he felt a weight on his waist. Something was stepping on his waist, preventing him from getting up. The fear grew. Suddenly, the man became angry and waved the knife in the air. Stop pretending. I'm not afraid of you. Come out. He rolled on the ground. The force on his waist disappeared. The man stood up and pointed the knife at the air. He swallowed in fear. What the hell is this? The commotion behind him was getting closer. The man made up his mind and rushed forward. He was kicked away again, but this time he grabbed onto Shisheng's leg. It was still warm. The man calmed himself down and pulled the leg with all his might. He waved the knife in her direction. Shisheng blocked the knife with his hand and swept the man's lower body, knocking him to the ground again. Don't move. Police. Countless rays of light shone on this side. The doctor and nurse on duty stood in the distance. In fact, only 2 of them dared to step forward. These 2 people were undercover police agents. With the light, the criminal saw that the person he was fighting with was actually a little girl. But why didn't he see her before? Shisheng met the criminal's gaze and facepalmed. It's over. He actually tore off the invisibility talisman. What quality? What happened to the promised safety and reliability against dropping? There were too many unscrupulous merchants nowadays. And Chi, why are you here? The policeman recognized Shisheng. After all, he was now a suspect. Shisheng was silent for a moment. I might be sleepwalking. Everyone. Sleepwalking could have come here from the 6th floor. Did you just jump down? The 2 policemen looked at each other and handcuffed the criminal on the ground. Just as the policeman lifted him up, his gaze suddenly swept to the side. The bright red blood stains seemed to be a guide. He craned his neck and looked in that direction. His expression changed and he shouted at the policeman behind him, "There's a corpse here." The criminal who was caught insisted that he was here to steal. He didn't know what corpse he was looking for, and didn't kill anyone. The police wanted to collect evidence and bring him back to the police station first. The corpse that was found later was obviously unrelated to the previous cases. The method used was completely different. The biggest suspect was Shisheng, who was present at the scene. Shisheng was a mental patient, so they didn't bring him back to the police station. They cleared out a room to interrogate him. "Why are you here?" The policeman stared at him sharply. "Sleepwalking. According to your file, you don't have sleepwalking problems." Shisheng crossed his legs and said casually, "Now I do." The policeman. "Are you a doctor? Just because you say so." The room was silent for a while. The policeman asked again, "You live on the 6th floor. There are 2 electronic doors between the 6th and 5th floor. How did you come down?" Shisheng looked at the policeman as if he was an idiot. "How would I know? I was sleepwalking." The policeman sneered. "Don't tell me you killed him while sleepwalking." "Why would I kill someone?" "You're asking me? Who should I ask? You're the suspect." Before the policeman could say anything, Shisheng said, "I have so many ministers. Even if I wanted to kill someone, why would I do it myself?" It was better to deal with a psychopath than a lunatic. The policeman felt that Shisheng was playing with him, and was a little angry. "And do you think we can't find out if you don't tell us?" Shisheng raised his eyebrows slightly. "Then go ahead and investigate. I'm not stopping you. I didn't kill him. It would be strange if he could investigate." Shisheng was like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. The group of policemen was at their wits' end. The suspect was a lunatic. The doctor said that she was sick and they couldn't continue questioning her. Shisheng was locked up in the room alone. Outside the room, Zhou Ning looked at the surveillance camera with a serious expression. The surveillance cameras in the entire hospital are broken. They didn't capture how she came out. The policeman who interrogated Shisheng just now replied, "And she insisted that she was sleepwalking. The doctor said that she was sick. I think she's very awake." Zhou Ning took the medical record and flipped through it. She doesn't have sleepwalking problems in her medical record. The policeman was amused. "Yes, I asked her the same thing. Guess what she said? She said that she's sick now. Isn't that nonsense? There's definitely something wrong with Anchi. Did you get in touch with her family?" The policeman hurriedly told Zhou Ning the results of his investigation. "No, the bank account provided by the hospital has been deleted. She's also confirmed dead. Anchi's medical fees were paid in one go for 10 years. Not everyone could afford such a large sum of money. Can you still find out who sent her here? Captain Zhou, it's been so long. I've asked the doctors and nurses who were there at that time. Everyone only remembers that the other party was a man. He wore sunglasses and was about 1.8 meters tall. It was raining at night when he was sent here. It was dark and they couldn't even see his face clearly." Zhou Ning wiped his face. "Continue investigating. I don't believe that this person could have appeared out of nowhere. Since he was a suspect, everything had to be investigated thoroughly. This is a fake group. Policeman. Why is it our show again? Little Fairy. Isn't it good to add more scenes for you? Policeman. Please don't add more scenes for us. Let us settle the case peacefully. Little Fairy. You've already added more. You should finish it. Policeman. Chapter 11:13. The autopsy results came out quickly. The time of death of the body was between 11 and 12 o'clock. However, the surveillance cameras were still working at that time. They clearly captured Shisheng in the room. With this evidence, they couldn't lock Shisheng up. But there was a problem that they had to figure out. "Anchi, how did you come down from the 6th floor?" There were no signs of damage to her room. There were people on duty in the corridor outside. If she went out through the door, they would have seen her. But they didn't. "I jumped down. Anchi, even if you're cleared of suspicion, we won't let you go if you don't answer this question. Please answer our question seriously. I'll tell you the truth. What can I do if you don't believe me?" She had jumped down. "The 6th floor is so high. How did you jump down?" The police sneered. Do you think you're Spider-Man? Shisheng corrected them. Spider-Man is so ugly. I should be a fairy. You used to call me but now you're a fairy? The police were speechless. They didn't want to talk to this lunatic. The police took turns asking questions. Shisheng either said that she jumped down or sleepwalked. But they didn't believe either of these answers. Neither of them made sense. How could they believe her? They couldn't let her jump down for them, right? The situation was a bit deadlocked. Change of shift. A police officer pushed the door open and came in. He switched shifts with the police officer who was guarding Shisheng. Shisheng lifted his eyelids, and then lowered them again. He closed his eyes and continued to rest. Has the case been solved yet? Not yet. She's very stubborn. Hey, let's talk when we get back to the station. The police officer glanced at Shisheng. The other police officer immediately shut up. Shisheng and them were in a deadlock until the evening. In the end, the hospital asked them when they would let her go. They also had something to ask. The police had no choice but to let her go. She came out of the room, but she didn't do anything. She was even sick. They were desperate. Shisheng came out of the room and saw Zhou Ning at first glance. He had shaved his beard and had an unlit cigarette in his mouth. He looked much younger than before. His facial features were tough and handsome, exuding a masculine aura. He didn't look like the handsome type in other novels. What a tough guy. This was a novel that focused on strength. The corner of Shisheng's lips lifted, a faint smile spreading across her face. However, that smile did not reach her eyes. Her eyes were calm, as if no matter how big the storm was, it could not cause a single ripple. Similarly, no one could glean any useful information from her eyes. Just as Shisheng was about to walk over, Zhou Ning said, "And Qi, do you really not remember what happened before you came here?" "I don't remember." Shisheng didn't turn around. She waved her hand. "Captain Zhou, if you have any clues, you must tell me. I also want to know where they came from." Zhou Ning stared at Shisheng's back and frowned slightly. She did not use the subject just now. However, Zhou Ning felt that he was overthinking things. Shisheng followed the hospital staff back to the building. When she passed by the balcony, she suddenly looked up. The balconies below the 5th floor were very lively, but the upper floors were very quiet. The 8th floor was surrounded by iron railings and nothing could be seen. Shisheng frowned and walked towards the stairs with her head lowered. When she went upstairs, the hospital staff came to ask her how she went down. Shisheng still gave the same answer. He didn't believe her lies or the truth. There was nothing she could do about it. Sometimes, the unbelievable was often the truth. After the staff left, the room finally quieted down. Shisheng propped her chin up and looked out of the window. Outside, the dark clouds were rolling. It seemed like it was going to rain. Other than Shisheng and the suspect of another case, there were no other clues in the heart-digging case. The previous case was also a little tricky. The suspect refused to admit that he killed the people. They did not find any useful evidence at the scene or at the suspect's home. When he was seen by someone, he insisted that he only wanted to steal something and not kill anyone. Sulu stood up to identify him, but the suspect found an excuse to escape in the end. This suspect could kill so many people in the hospital without being found by the police. He was definitely not a good person. If Shisheng had not stopped him at the scene, the police would not have been able to catch him. As long as he did not kill anyone, he would just be locked up for a few years. He would be a good man when he came out. They knew that he had killed someone, but there was nothing they could do about it. The suspect even hired a lawyer to clear his name. Because there was insufficient evidence, he was not convicted of murder. As for the other charges, he would only be sentenced to 2 years in prison. The police were only responsible for arresting people to solve cases and submitting evidence. They could not interfere with the sentencing. Therefore, no matter how angry they were, it was useless. Zhou Ning had not slept for a few nights because of this case. However, he still had another case and did not have time to rest. Zhou Ning's beard grew again. Fortunately, he was dressed neatly. Otherwise, Shisheng would think that he was not the male lead but a beggar. This man was sitting opposite him. Shisheng calmly took a sip of tea. "Captain Zhou, why are you looking for me?" Zhou Ning's voice was hoarse. And what did you see that night? The suspect had been chased out by their men. He also had an alibi for the time of death. Therefore, he did not kill the person and he did not know who killed the person. Now, the only clue was the woman in front of him who was once listed as a suspect. Shisheng put down his teacup. I didn't see anything. You were right next to the body. You really didn't see anything? Zhou Ning's sharp eyes looked straight at Shisheng. Do you know the consequences of not reporting something? Officer Zhou, do you think the words of a mental patient can be used as evidence? Even if I saw it, why should I tell you? Idiot. Of course, Zhou Ning knew that it was impossible. He just wanted to scare her and find some clues. Are you really crazy? This girl's mind was very clear. She was different from the Enqi he had seen before. Although she was similar to the sober Enqi, they were not exactly the same. In the past, Enqi was also very calm and collected. However, she was not like this. There was an indescribable, evil aura around her. Yes, evil aura. The faint smile at the corner of her mouth made people feel very uncomfortable. It was as if she could see through them. Shisheng smacked his lips. If the doctor says I'm sick, then I'm sick. If the doctor says I'm not sick, then I'm not sick. You have to ask the doctor about this. Zhou Ning thought of her medical record. That medical record was updated not long ago. The conclusion was that it was more serious than before. Could it be that the more serious a mental illness was, the more powerful it was? How could a normal person live if that was the case? As the saying went, geniuses are on the left and lunatics are on the right. Asterisk, I'm begging for a monthly vote. Sob, sob, sob. My pockets are full at the beginning of the month. Chapter 11:14. Enqi, hiding the evidence won't do you any good. Instead, you'll let the murderer find you. Zhou Ning calmed himself down. That's an innocent life. Are you going to let the murderer get away with it? Shisheng smiled and said calmly, Officer Zhou, I'm just a patient. Zhou Ning was speechless. Weren't all mental patients complaining that they weren't sick? Enqi. Hello. Zhou Ning's words were interrupted by a sudden voice. A man in a white coat stood next to Shisheng. He was wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. The lenses blocked his eyes. His face was a little pale, but it did not lose its beauty. He exuded an elegant temperament. The words beast in human clothing popped up in Shisheng's mind. You are? Zhou Ning obviously didn't know this man. The man seemed to smile. Dr. Yin can't come to work for the time being. I'm Muli, Enqi's attending doctor. Officer Zhou, you've been talking to my patient for half an hour. It's not good for her condition. Shisheng was dumbfounded. What the hell? This beast in human clothing was I's attending doctor? Zhou Ning frowned slightly. I've never seen you before. Muli nodded slightly and spoke slowly. I'm officially employed today. It's normal that you don't know me. You can call the hospital director for confirmation. Zhou Ning did indeed ask the hospital director for confirmation. The hospital director confirmed that Muli was a newly employed doctor, and even sent Zhou Ning a file. Officer Zhou, can I take my patient away now? Muli asked politely when he saw Zhou Ning put away his phone. He seemed polite, but in reality, Shisheng didn't see any courtesy on his face. I still have something to talk to Enqi about. Can Dr. Mu give me a few more minutes? Muli glanced at Zhou Ning. Officer Zhou, if you need anything, you can make an appointment with me. I'll arrange a meeting between you and Enqi. But now, I have to take Enqi away. Muli's tone became forceful as he spoke. Zhou Ning was speechless. Did a police officer need an appointment to handle a case? Muli seemed to know what Zhou Ning was thinking. He pushed up his glasses. Officer Zhou, Enqi isn't your suspect. Zhou Ning was speechless. Enqi's suspicion had been eliminated. She was indeed no longer a suspect. Muli looked at Shisheng. Enqi, let's go. Shisheng didn't want to leave with this beast. It was safer to stay with the male lead. Officer Zhou, I think I can still talk to you for a while. Zhou Ning glanced at Shisheng in bewilderment. He could not understand the brain circuits of a lunatic. Muli didn't show any signs of anger. Instead, he lowered his voice and said, Enqi, you should go back for a checkup. What kind of checkup was this? Did this beast want to dissect her? It must be. It was too terrifying. There's a pervert here. Dr. Mu. Zhou Ning still had a lot of questions to ask Shisheng, but before he could say anything, Mu Li's gaze drifted over. It was exceptionally cold through his gold-rimmed glasses. Zhou Ning's voice seemed to be stuck in his throat. No matter how hard he tried, he could not speak. His lips parted slightly. Officer Zhou, do you have any other questions? No. Shisheng. F***CK, the male lead is actually afraid of this beast. Where's your male lead halo? Take it out. Kill him. How did he become the male lead when he was such a coward? He wasn't an outstanding beauty, nor did he have a particularly powerful family background. Was he actually a fake male lead? And Officer Zhou has no more questions. Can you come with me now? Can I not go? I want to kill every pervert I see. I'm a good patient now. I don't want to kill anyone. Don't make me do it, okay? While the two were still in a stalemate, Zhou Ning suddenly received a phone call. Zhou Ning's expression changed when he heard the other party's words. He hurriedly said, "Protect the scene. I'll be there soon." He stood up and nodded at Mu Li. "Dr. Mu, I'll make an appointment with you another day." Mu Li turned slightly to the side and made way for Zhou Ning. Zhou Ning was probably really in a hurry. He strode out quickly and didn't even look back. "Don't go, male lead. Bring me along." Obviously, Zhou Ning couldn't hear Shisheng's thoughts. Shisheng sat there without moving. As soon as Zhou Ning left, Mu Li said, "I'll come to your ward in half an hour." He didn't give Shisheng any time to refute or agree. He took the medical records and left. Shisheng was speechless. Cat biscuits? Is he here to diss the male lead? Mu Li, I've never heard of this name. Where did this pervert come from? F***CKF***CKF***CKF***CKF***CKF***CKF***CK Shisheng dawdled outside for an hour before returning to her ward. She didn't want to see her current attending doctor at all. She suddenly missed Dr. Yan. But when she entered the ward, Mu Li was standing in the room. He glanced at Shisheng. He didn't ask why she had taken an hour to return. Instead, he said indifferently, "And I need to do a full body checkup on you." Shisheng stood at the door and said in an unfriendly tone, "How comprehensive? I want to kill this pervert." Mu Li pushed his glasses up. From head to toe. "Ha." Shisheng uttered an unknown syllable. She closed the door and locked it from the inside. Mu Li narrowed his eyes. He took out his hand from outside his white coat and placed it in front of him. "And this is my job. I need to know my patients thoroughly." Shisheng cracked his wrist and tilted his head with a smile. "Sure, I'll help you understand." Mu Li had a bad feeling. Before he could react, the person in front of him had already rushed over. She grabbed him by the shoulders and threw him backward. Mu Li was thrown onto the hospital bed. He was speechless as he grabbed the hand that was trying to throw him again. He pushed her to the side and wrapped his legs around her waist. He exerted force and pressed her onto the bed. "Are you sick?" "Sick my ass. I'm not sick. Where's I's sword?" Shisheng bent her knee and tried to hit Mu Li's lower body. Mu Li quickly pressed her leg down. Her knee was right next to his lower body and he could feel her heat. "Pervert." Mu Li lowered his head and glanced at her. A smile appeared on his pale face. "So you'd better not move around now. Otherwise what?" Shisheng's expression turned cold. "Are you going to force yourself on me?" "Ha." Mu Li pressed her leg down and said gently, "And be good. I won't hurt you." Shisheng snorted. "How arrogant of you." Shisheng suddenly raised her head and tried to hit Mu Li. While Mu Li was dodging, she managed to free herself from his body. She kicked his waist, grabbed the bedsheet beside them and pulled it around his neck. Mu Li tripped over something beside him and fell to the ground. Shisheng grabbed the bedsheet and looked down at him. "Dr. Mu, do you still want to do a full body checkup on me?" Mu Li was speechless. He had underestimated her. Chapter 11:15. "Dr. Mu and are you all right?" Deng Jun's voice suddenly sounded from outside, followed by the sound of the door lock being turned. Although Shisheng had locked the door, it was not a problem for the staff of the hospital. The door was quickly pushed open. The first person Deng Jun saw was Mu Li, who was lying on the floor, and then Shisheng, who was standing beside Mu Li. And she? Was she having a relapse? You. Shisheng threw the bedsheet away and kicked Mu Li in front of Deng Jun. Drag him out and behead him. Deng Jun was speechless. She was indeed having a relapse. Deng Jun looked at Mu Li sympathetically. She had been on the 6th floor for a long time, but she had never had a relapse. Deng Jun felt sorry for Dr. Mu. Mu Li was rescued by Deng Jun. There were no injuries on his face, but his waist and legs were throbbing with pain. Deng Jun was really ruthless. Mu Li calmly threw the bedsheet on the floor, pulled his white coat, and quickly left the room. Shisheng stared at his back thoughtfully. He wanted to find a chance to kill him. It was too scary to have a psychopath around. Why was there always a retard who wanted to harm him? The murderer of the Zhongshan Psychiatric Hospital murder case died at 2 a.m. today. The cause of death is still under investigation. Shisheng was sitting in the cafeteria, watching the news on TV and sipping his soup. Suddenly, Su Li's face blocked the TV. "Anqi, can I sit here?" Shisheng put down his spoon and said clearly, "No." Su Lu tightened her grip on the tray. She looked around and sat down. "Anqi, I have something to tell you." "I don't want to hear it." Shisheng leaned back and looked at her coldly. Su Lu felt uncomfortable under Shisheng's gaze. She stammered, "Anqi, don't be like this. I don't mean you any harm." Shisheng sneered. "You led the murderer to my room, and you say you don't mean me any harm? Do you mean harm when I'm dead?" Su Li's face turned pale. She hadn't mentioned it for such a long time. She felt lucky that she hadn't seen it that night. A malicious smile appeared on Shisheng's face. She pointed at the television screen with her chin. "Look, he's dead." When Su Lu met Shisheng's gaze, an unrealistic thought surfaced in her fearful eyes. But after thinking about it, she found it impossible. Su Lu forced a smile on her face. "Anqi, what are you talking about?" Shisheng looked Su Lu up and down. "This female lead's pretty good at acting like this, ah. I'm not afraid of you collapsing. I'm just afraid that you won't collapse." He wondered if he could kill the other party in such a state. "Host, can't you put something useful in your head? How could this be called useless? If she doesn't die, I'll have to die. Isn't living something useful?" She was actually speechless. "You know very well what I'm talking about. You don't have to pretend." Shisheng paused. "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone." Su Li's face turned even paler. She really knew everything. Su Li thought of something and looked at Shisheng. "Anqi, you've recovered, haven't you?" Her behavior had been too abnormal recently. Even when Shisheng had a relapse, he was completely different from before. Why was a mental patient acting so abnormal? This was the only answer she could think of. She had recovered. It wasn't as if there were no examples of mental patients suddenly recovering. Shisheng raised his eyebrows in amusement. "What does it have to do with you?" "You've recovered," Su Lu concluded. "Since you've recovered, why are you still here?" Shisheng rolled his eyes. "It's none of your business. Can't I be happy?" Su Lu was speechless. Shisheng's gaze was like an X-ray, which made Su Lu very uncomfortable. Shisheng stood up and said maliciously, "Don't meddle in my business. Otherwise." Shisheng looked at the television again, which was still reporting the news. "You'll have to go down and find that scumbag." Su Li's pupils constricted and her body trembled slightly. She seemed to be surrounded by a gust of cold air, which made her limbs numb and goosebumps appear all over her body. Su Lu watched Shisheng change his seat. She took out her phone with trembling hands and called Zhou Ning. "Brother Zhou, Anqi did it." "What?" Zhou Ning didn't understand Su Li's words. Su Lu told Zhou Ning what happened just now. Zhou Ning was silent for a while. "Stay here and don't move. I'll come and find you." "Okay." Su Lu hung up the phone with a pale face. She didn't dare to leave the cafeteria. There were so many people from the hospital and so many patients here. It was the safest place. Su Lu carefully looked around the cafeteria and found that Shisheng hadn't left yet. She changed her seat. Su Lu quickly looked away to reduce her presence. You bunch of B** cheese, I'm going to kill you. Crash! A loud noise suddenly came from the seat in front of Sulu. The whole table was lifted by a patient. He picked up a stool and threw it at the patient next to him. Sensing danger, the patients knew to dodge and retreated in the direction of the cafeteria. Of course, the scene would be spectacular. Su Li's seat wasn't very good. The patients rushed back and she was stuck in the middle. When most of the patients ran away, Sulu wanted to run, but the patient was already in front of her. He threw the stool straight at Sulu. Sulu climbed up the table and jumped to the back. Only then did she escape. But the patient didn't give up on her and continued to chase her. After her row was finished, there was no way out. Sulu ran to the side, but the patient suddenly sped up. The stool hit Suli's calf. She staggered and fell on the table. Sulu ignored the pain in her foot and got up from the ground. The patient was 2 tables away from Sulu. He suddenly threw the stool in his hand at Sulu. Sulu was shocked and instinctively bent over to avoid the stool. The stool flew through the air and smashed into the corner. Coincidentally, Shisheng was sitting there. Shisheng was also desperate. An unfavored cannon fodder was so unlucky. Where's my sword? Shisheng had just taken out his iron sword when someone blocked in front of him. The stool hit him and fell to the ground. There was some blood on it. Shisheng looked up slightly and only saw a tall back and the back of the head. That pervert. F***ck. That pervert blocked a knife for me? Maybe I'm not awake today. Muli reached out and touched his forehead. His hand was full of blood. He raised it in front of him and looked. Suddenly his body went soft and he fell back. There was only Shisheng behind him. Behind Shisheng was a wall full of patients. She couldn't avoid it and could only catch the person who fell. She really didn't want to catch it. But if she didn't, she would be smashed. Shisheng caught Muli and released him in the next second. He stepped on the stool, jumped on the table, and landed outside. Asterisk 2017. 03. 01 Little Angel in Book Review Area, Yijing. Hashtag today's blue snowflake flavored votes. Hashtag monthly votes. Hashtag monthly votes. Hashtag. Chapter 11:16. Muli's face was covered in blood. Fresh blood dripped onto his white coat, soaking it in an instant. Muli had already lost consciousness. Did he die with just one hit? How could he be so weak? Surely not. It was impossible. Shisheng stepped forward and touched his nose. He was still breathing. He was not dead. How could a psychopath die so easily? But that hit shouldn't have knocked him out, right? Shisheng looked at Muli curiously. The hospital staff had already subdued the sick patient. Zhou also arrived at the scene to maintain order. Sulu was sent to the emergency room by Zhou. A nurse quickly came to Muli's side. Seeing Muli's face covered in blood, the nurse was frightened and shouted, "Help! Dr. Mu is injured." The nurses carried Muli onto a stretcher and hurried him out. A nurse suddenly grabbed Shisheng. "You're injured too? Come with me to the other side." "I'm not." Shisheng looked down at the back of his hand. He didn't know when, but there was a cut there. It was bleeding. Shisheng was speechless. "When did you get injured? Why didn't I feel anything at all?" She really didn't feel anything. It didn't hurt at all. She was very sure that her hand was not injured before Muli collapsed. It must have been after he collapsed. The space was very narrow. In order to avoid contact with Muli, she might have scratched it on the table. Muli was fine. It was just that his head was bleeding badly. It looked scary. The nurse bandaged Shisheng's hand and reminded him, "Don't touch water for the next few days. Come here every day to change the bandage. I'll talk to your nurse." In the end, the nurse realized that it was useless to talk to him since he was a psychopath. She stopped talking and focused on bandaging him. Done. The nurse tied a knot. "Do you feel any discomfort?" Shisheng shook his head. The nurse put away the bandages. "Wait here for a while. I'll get someone to send you back." The nurse talked for a while. Shisheng waited for about half an hour, but no one came. Half an hour later, Muli was wheeled in. His head was wrapped in gauze. His glasses were taken off, and his handsome face was as pale as a sheet. He was awake, but his head was lowered and he was not looking at anyone. Dr. Mu, have a good rest. The nurse's voice was exceptionally gentle. Mu Li ignored the nurse. The nurse turned to look at Shisheng in disappointment. "Enqi, come here. I'll take you home." "She'll stay," Mu Li suddenly said. The nurse was puzzled. "Dr. Mu?" Shisheng shuddered. "I don't want to be with a pervert." She lifted her feet and walked outside. Mu Li seemed to raise his head to take a look, but he didn't. He didn't stop her either. When the nurse saw that Shisheng had left, she looked around and didn't know what to do. In the end, Mu Li raised his hand and the nurse quickly chased after him. Shisheng met Zhou Ning, who was supporting the female lead outside. The three of them met on a narrow path. Zhou Ning looked her up and down, as if he was trying to find a flower in her. His eyes were full of probing. Su Li's face turned pale when she saw Shisheng. She tried her best to shrink into his arms. "A good dog doesn't block the way. How long are you going to block the way?" Shisheng broke the awkward atmosphere. Zhou Ning supported Su Lu and moved aside. Shisheng walked past him. Just as they were about to pass each other, Zhou Ning said, "Enqi, justice grinds slowly but surely." Shisheng paused. She turned around and smiled mockingly. "Officer Zhou, why are you suddenly telling me this?" "I'm just reminding you." Zhou Ning's face was cold. "Reminding me?" Shisheng sneered. "Then I'll have to trouble you, Officer Zhou. If you have the time to remind me, why don't you solve the case earlier?" Zhou Ning wanted to find some clues from Shisheng's expression. Unfortunately, there was nothing. She was too calm. Zhou Ning looked at Shisheng, who swaggered away. His expression was ugly. "Xiaolu, did you really hear her say that she's recovered?" "Yes." Su Lu nodded. Although she didn't admit it herself, that was what she meant. Zhou Ning thought for a while. "I'll send you back to your room first. Then I'll check the CCTV. She was a suspect before, but Dr. Yan had said that she was very smart. If she had committed a crime, there was an 80% chance that she would escape punishment." Su Lu observed Zhou Ning's expression for a while. "About the murderer's death. There were no signs of entry or fingerprints. Xiaolu, don't make wild guesses. We need evidence. Brother Zhou, you have to believe me." Su Lu didn't know how to say it, but she had a feeling that the murderer was her. Zhou Ning patted Su Li's head. "It's not that I don't believe you, but we need evidence. If you can convict a person based on intuition, then the world will be in chaos." Zhou Ning didn't believe that Shisheng was the one who killed that person. Access cards were required to enter and exit the place. How could she kill that person in such a short time? Moreover, the CCTV didn't show any signs of entry. Su Lu bit her lip. "Brother Zhou, she's very scary." "I know. You should avoid contact with her in the future. She wasn't the only scary person. Dr. Mu Li was also scary." "Okay." When Shisheng returned to the 6th floor, he heard someone crying. The door of the ward in the stairwell was ajar. Shisheng looked inside. The patient didn't seem to want to take the medicine, and was being forced to take it by the nurse. The patient struggled so hard that the medicine spilled all over the floor. "Enqi, you're back." Deng Jun appeared out of nowhere, and pulled her to her ward. "I heard there was a commotion in the cafeteria. Are you okay?" Shisheng pulled his arm back. "I'm fine." Deng Jun looked behind him. When they were in a blind spot, he suddenly lowered his voice and said quickly, "Enqi, I know you're different from them. When they give you the medicine, don't take the capsules." What the hell?" Deng Jun didn't want to say anything more. He walked to the front and opened the door for her. Shisheng glanced at the CCTV and entered the room without a change in his expression. Deng Jun winked at her and closed the door. Side mission, Zhongshan plan. Clue Mu Li. Shisheng. Who gave you the permission to give out side missions? Host, this mission concerns your Feng Xi. Are you sure you don't want to accept it? Feng Xi? Wasn't he on the 8th floor? 8th floor, Shisheng thought of the iron railings that surrounded the 8th floor and facepalmed. Is he waiting for I to save him again? The system didn't say anything. Asterisk, this is a fake group. Little Fairy. What do you guys do when you're in a bad mood? Cherub, eat melon seeds. Shisheng, chop people. Feng Xiai, look at my wife. System log off. System owner play cards. Mubai kill myself. Little fairy. What can I do? Cherub, write a story. Little fairy. No votes, no motivation. Cherub, haha. To put it bluntly, you still need votes. Little fairy, shy yes. System notification. Cherub has left this fake group. Chapter 11-17. Shisheng inquired about the situation on the 8th floor. The 8th floor seemed to be isolated from the rest of the world. There was no internet, no surveillance, and very strict access. Shisheng waited for a long time on the stairs, but did not see anyone coming down. And Dr. Mu is here for a ward round. Deng Jun called out to Shisheng from afar. Shisheng glanced at his ward. Muli had his hands in the pockets of his white coat, and a few nurses followed behind him. He looked very imposing. His face was still pale, and there was no trace of blood on his lips. The bandage on his head had been removed, and he put on his glasses. He looked like a beast in human clothing. Shisheng moved back to his ward, and Muli followed him in. Click. The door was locked. Shisheng turned to look at Muli. Muli was leaning against the door, staring straight at her through his glasses. And don't go near the 8th floor. The clue of the side mission was on Muli. What's on the 8th floor? Muli pushed his glasses up, and the reflection of the lenses masked the emotions that flashed across his eyes. It's hell. Shisheng. I think this doctor needs to be treated. Shisheng's eyes darted around. Is it an illegal experiment or an anti-human research project? According to the usual routine, these were the only things that could be involved. Muli's expression did not change. He took out a pen and started to write. He did not ask anything and left as soon as he finished writing. Shisheng. What was wrong with this psychopath? Shisheng received more information from the nurses. The 8th and 7th floors were sealed off, and people could only go up from the basement elevator. The basement elevator required a fingerprint switch. Without a fingerprint, people could not go up to the 8th floor. To outsiders, this was to prevent patients from escaping and hurting people. The patients on the 8th floor were extremely dangerous, so no one thought that anything was wrong. To be so secretive, they must be doing something shady. Later, Zhou Ning came to Shisheng again about the heart-digging case. He also wanted to test her, but Shisheng stopped him with a few words. The heart-digging case also happened outside, which meant that it was not done by people from the mental hospital. The person who died in the hospital was just a victim. There were countless murders in this world. Shisheng had no interest in paying attention to those psychopathic murderers. She was thinking of a way to go up to the 8th floor. She had to go up and confirm if that man was Feng Xiai. Shisheng waited until nightfall and jumped out of the window. He stepped on the iron sword and flew around the 8th floor. He found a corner, lifted the iron railing, and jumped in. The 8th floor was very dark. It was so dark that one couldn't even see one's own fingers. The layout was similar to that of the first floor, with rooms one after another. Shisheng looked around and walked forward. She could not hear anything. The entire 8th floor was silent. None of the rooms could be opened. This kind of door was specially made, and was obviously different from the one on her floor. Just as Shisheng was about to continue walking, the door of a room at the end of the corridor suddenly opened. The light slowly spread out. Before Shisheng could hide, she felt her wrist being grabbed and pulled into the darkness. That person covered her mouth. Shoo. The reaction this time is a little big. Reduce the amount. Yes. What about the one in room 7? There's no problem. I can get out of bed now. Okay. Her voice gradually faded. The light disappeared, and the corridor returned to silence. The person who was holding down Shisheng looked down the corridor. After making sure that everyone had left, he pulled back and growled in a low voice. Didn't I tell you not to go near the 8th floor? Shisheng pushed his hand away. It's none of your business. Muli stared at her in the darkness for a long time before saying, Come with me. I have something to do. Shisheng pushed Muli away and walked out. Muli looked around and followed her. What are you doing up here? It's none of your business. Muli grabbed Shisheng again. Before he could say anything, Shisheng had already kicked him. The two of them started fighting in the narrow corridor. Muli was good at fighting, and the space was limited. The two of them exchanged a few blows, but there was still no clear winner. "Who's there?" A shout suddenly came from behind. Muli gave up resisting and turned around to stand in front of Shisheng. Shisheng heard the sound of something hitting flesh. Someone broke in. "Come and help." Muli grabbed Shisheng and ran in another direction. The person behind them was hot on their heels. Bullets were fired from guns with silencers, and they hit the corridor with ear-piercing sounds. Muli hid in a ventilation passage with Shisheng. The person who was chasing them ran down from below. Muli made sure that he was gone, and then moved forward. Shisheng didn't want to be in such a narrow space at all. She was pulled by this man just now because she was confused by his sudden action of standing in front of her. "Follow me." Muli sensed that the person behind them wasn't following them, so he turned around and shouted. Shisheng curled his lips. "Who wants to climb the ventilation passage with you? How could such a lofty person like this Baobao climb such a thing? Climbing through a window is better than this." She didn't have the strength. She jumped down from the ventilation passage and met the person who was returning. She took out her sword and knocked him down. Muli jumped down. The light made it hard for his eyes to adjust. When he opened his eyes, he saw the blood on his waist. His face turned pale, and he swayed and fell to the ground. Shisheng had just picked up his gun when he saw Muli fall to the ground. "Shisheng, as a psychopath, is it okay for you to be so weak?" "Dada." Someone was coming. The person on the other end quickly appeared, and shone his flashlight directly on Shisheng. "She's not one of us. Kill her." Almost at the same time, the other party shot a bullet at him. Shisheng blocked the bullet with his iron sword and quickly ran in that direction. The bullet hit the iron sword, making clanging sounds. The group of people on the other side was dumbfounded. What? How could someone block the bullet? Kill her. Everyone felt that they were in danger. If they didn't kill her, they would be the ones to die. The bullets were useless against Shisheng. They either missed or hit the iron sword. Sparks flew in the dark. They saw a black shadow rushing towards them. The cold light suddenly enlarged in their eyes. Death was coming. The sound suddenly stopped. "Damn it, this retard still wants to kill I." Shisheng supported himself with his iron sword and scolded in a low voice. When she turned around to look at Muli, who was lying on the ground just a moment ago, was gone. Shisheng. Did she know how to burrow into the ground? She was indeed a psychopath. Shisheng looked around but couldn't find Muli. Instead, he met another group of people who came up and fought with them without hesitation. There were only a few people locked up on the 8th floor. There was nothing else. Those people didn't look strange. Well, they were sleeping soundly. None of them woke up when she was fighting outside. She also couldn't find the man she saw last time. He wasn't here. There was an elevator on the 8th floor that led to the basement. She definitely didn't know that he had been transferred. So, she came here for nothing? So angry. She wasted so much of her time. Go back to sleep. Chapter 11:18. As soon as Shisheng returned to the ward, someone came to check on her. "Did you hear anything?" the person asked as soon as he came in. Shisheng sat on the bed. "What do I want to hear? Who are you? What do you want? How dare you barge into my bedroom in the middle of the night? Are you trying to rebel?" She suddenly jumped up from the bed and hit the person with a pillow. "How dare you order people to silence I? Even if these people were not the leaders, they were definitely hired thugs." Shisheng had no qualms about beating them up. Seeing that the person was being beaten up, the people around him quickly came to help. "Well, you are all trying to rebel. I must beat you to death today." Shisheng stood on the bed while a group of people stood around the bed. The person who was beaten up just now was in a daze. How could a patient be so strong? And she is acting up. "Come out quickly." Deng Jun stood outside and shouted at the group of people. These people often dealt with lunatics and knew that they should not provoke them when they were acting up. Moreover, they had serious business to attend to, so they quickly retreated to the door. Shisheng jumped down and pretended to chase after them. "Close the door. Hurry up and close the door." Deng Jun quickly closed the door. Through the observation window, he saw An-Chi standing in the middle of the room and looking at him expressionlessly. Deng Jun suddenly realized that she was not acting up. The whole hospital was noisy until midnight. Shisheng leaned against the window and looked at the hazy scenery below. Many people came in and out. Although they were wearing white coats and nurse uniforms, she had never seen them before. Their figures did not look like they were in this line of work. Instead, they looked more like hired thugs. They did not leave until the sun rose. At dawn, Muli came over with a group of people. His face was still a little pale. When he saw that Shisheng was unharmed, his face darkened. Shisheng didn't understand what he meant by that either. Was he regretting that she was not caught? Muli pushed up his glasses and restrained all his emotions. His voice was cold. I heard that you were acting up again last night. If I'm not acting up, then am I a lunatic? Shisheng rolled his eyes. Muli turned to the group behind him and said, You guys go out first. I'll talk to her. It was very common for an attending physician to talk to a patient alone. The others left without any objections. Shisheng raised his eyebrows and looked at Muli. What are you doing? Trying to silence her? Muli approached the Shisheng. Didn't I warn you not to go to the 8th floor? Why didn't you listen? Why should I listen to you? Muli's voice seemed to be frosty. You are my patient. It is my duty to ensure your safety. I'm courting death. It has nothing to do with you. So you pervert, hurry up and leave. I feel like you're going to dissect I in the next second. Muli sneered. I'm in charge of you now. You're related to me from head to toe. Shisheng was silent for a moment. She could feel the aura of a beast in human clothing again. Muli restrained his emotions and stared at her from behind his glasses. An-Chi be good. Obedient my ass. Knock knock. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. Muli looked at Shisheng deeply and turned to open the door. There were two unfamiliar doctors standing outside. Dr. Mu, you're here too? One of the doctors greeted him. Why are you here so early in the morning? Muli said coldly and distantly. The nurse said she fell ill last night. I'm here to check on her. Dr. Mu, you've worked hard. The doctor patted Muli on the shoulder. Muli frowned and avoided the doctor's hand. What's the matter? Well, here's the thing. Previously, Dr. Yen was inconvenienced, so we asked you to temporarily replace her. However, the hospital director took into consideration that you're not familiar with the hospital. We've also transferred some people here, so we want to transfer you to the 4th floor. Muli's frown deepened. I don't think it's a good idea to transfer her. I've already done a thorough investigation of her condition. The doctor laughed. Dr. Mu, we're just following orders from the higher-ups. Please don't make things difficult for me. I'll talk to the hospital director. Muli glanced at them. But before that, you'd better not touch my patient. The two doctors' faces darkened. Dr. Mu, Muli pushed them out. He turned to look at Shisheng before closing the door. Shisheng watched them talk outside for a long time. The two doctors left in a huff. Muli stood there for a while before entering the ward again. If you don't want to be targeted by them, then listen to me obediently. Do you understand? Shisheng. You're scared of those idiots. The river flows east, and the stars in the sky join the Big Dipper. If you don't cause trouble, you won't become a god. As soon as Muli left, Deng Jun came in with a kettle. He looked like he wanted to say something, but in the end he didn't say a word because of the surveillance cameras. Shisheng looked in the direction of the surveillance cameras. Why wasn't that psycho Muli afraid of the surveillance cameras? Could it be that he had someone in the surveillance room? It was good to have someone backing you. In the end, Muli was still Shisheng's attending doctor. However, for many days, Muli had a gloomy look on his face. It was completely different from his previous image. The other people in the hospital were a little afraid of him. An-Chi, Dr. Mu said that you can go downstairs to exercise. Shisheng was watching the psycho from the balcony when Deng Jun suddenly jogged over. Shisheng looked behind him. Muli was standing not far away. He was looking at her. Shisheng couldn't see his expression clearly, because he was too far away. After Shisheng looked at him for 3 seconds, Muli turned and left. This psycho was weird. There were many people in the garden. Shisheng walked along the path in the middle with his hands behind his back to photosynthesize. Just as he turned the corner, a woman suddenly jumped out from the bushes and hugged Shisheng. Don't go. I was wrong. I won't cause trouble again. Don't leave me. I can't live without you. The woman moved too quickly. She didn't seem to have any intention of killing. Shisheng didn't have time to react and was dumbfounded. Shisheng tried to pull away, but the woman hugged him too tightly. Shisheng's mouth twitched. Then you can die. The woman hugged him even tighter. Baby, I was wrong. Don't be angry. I'll do anything you want. Don't leave me. Okay. You can die first. So you won't leave me? The woman looked up at Shisheng. Shisheng's mouth twitched. He squeezed her wrist. Just as he was about to exert more force, a hand came from the side and easily pushed the woman away. Muli was tall and slender. He wasn't very muscular. From afar he looked slender. However, he easily pushed the woman away. What are you doing? Bad guy, let go of me. I want my baby. The woman struggled and tried to scratch Muli. Muli pushed her. The nurse behind him immediately held the woman down. Muli frowned and ordered, "Take her back to the ward." No. The woman screamed and started to cry. Baby, my baby. Don't leave me. Let go of me. I want my baby. Chapter 11:19. Muli put his hands into the pockets of his white coat. Zhou Ning wants to see you. Why does he want to see me? Didn't I tell you that I don't know anything? Why does the male lead keep pestering me? Is he crazy? I don't know. Muli turned to leave. Follow me. Shisheng pursed his lips. I will lose face if you ask me to. I'm not going. Shisheng walked in the opposite direction of Muli. Muli took a few steps and did not hear any sound behind him. He turned around and saw that she was already standing in front of two crazy people. She was grabbing one of them by the collar and throwing him to the ground. Muli was speechless. She's hitting him. The young nurse screamed from afar. The nurses who were scattered around immediately surrounded Shisheng. Shisheng was taken to the small dark room. Muli sat opposite her with a dark face. Why did you hit him? Shisheng put his feet on the table and shook slightly. When he heard Muli's question, he raised his chin arrogantly. I'm sick. Muli emphasized. You're very clear-headed. She did not move after she hit him. She was not sick at all. My hands were itchy. Shisheng rephrased his words. Anyway, I'm sick. It's not illegal to hit people. Muli was silent for a while. He got up and went out. Send me the surveillance footage. The surveillance footage was sent to Muli quickly. The surveillance footage in the garden was from all angles. He pulled up all the footage that could be captured from that angle. In the footage, after he turned around, she immediately walked in the opposite direction. Then she suddenly stopped in front of the two men and hit them the next second. Switching to the surveillance footage, he could clearly see that the man she hit had a perverted expression on his face as he reached out to touch her. Muli's aura suddenly turned cold. He picked up the phone on the table and dialed the internal line. Send the patient in room 23 on the 4th floor to me. Muli took another look at the surveillance footage. He calmed himself down and went to the small dark room again. Shisheng was still in the same position. The corners of his mouth were slightly curved and he looked like he was mocking him. Can I leave now? Muli let go of the doorknob. And if you're smart enough, you should know what it means to temporarily avoid danger. Shisheng put his foot down and sneered. Ha! Why should I avoid you? If she couldn't even manage a rundown hospital, how could she conquer the sea of stars? Muli looked at her quietly. His phone rang a few times before he retracted his gaze and turned to answer the call. The door was not closed, which meant that she could go out. Shisheng watched as Muli's figure disappeared through the door. There was something wrong with this pervert. Shisheng did not know how Muli had written the report to the hospital. Anyway, no one had come to question her after she had hit someone. Not only that, but she could also move around freely downstairs. Previously, Muli had said that Zhou Ning wanted to see her, but she had ignored him. Who knew that Zhou Ning would come looking for her? Even if she didn't go up to court death, there would still be a plot to make her do so. It was all a F***king trick. Flips the table. What kind of trick is this? Where is I's sword? I want to hack this male lead to death. Host, calm down. It's not good to kill someone in public. Shisheng poked at the food on his plate silently and stared at the man opposite him, as if it was his corpse lying on the plate. Zhou Ning's mind was filled with such a scene. Zhou Ning could not stand the atmosphere and broke the silence. "Anqi, I have a few questions to ask you." Shisheng held his fork and did not move. "Why should I answer you? Who do you think you are? As a citizen, you have the obligation to answer the police's questions." Zhou Ning was mentally exhausted. He just wanted to ask her a few questions, not arrest her. Shisheng threw his fork on the table. The fork collided with the tabletop and made a crisp sound. Does that mean that as a lunatic, hitting a police officer does not count as assaulting a police officer? Alarm bells went off in Zhou Ning's mind. The girl opposite him had already picked up the plate on the table and was about to smash it into his face. Zhou Ning dodged with practiced ease, but he could not completely avoid it. Many vegetable leaves hung on his shoulders, and the soup spilled all over him. "Anqi, what are you doing?" Sulu rushed out of nowhere and quickly brushed the vegetable leaves off Zhou Ning's shoulders. She was furious. "Do you know what you're doing? Assaulting a police officer." Shisheng clapped his hands and shouted back with his hands on his hips. "Are you blind? Can't you see? Are you the only one who knows how to shout? I know how to shout too. If you know, then why are you still doing it?" Sulu was so angry that her face turned red. "I'm crazy," Shisheng said self-righteously. "I don't have to take responsibility for assaulting a police officer. It's a waste not to take advantage of this opportunity." Sulu choked. Who was the one who set the rule that a lunatic would not be held responsible for assaulting a police officer? Sulu thought for a moment and quickly said, "Your mind is clear now, which proves that you're sober and responsible." Shisheng was not afraid of boiling water. He continued to be arrogant. "Oh, it's just assaulting a police officer. At most, I'll be locked up for a few days. When I come out, I'll be a good man again." Sulu moved closer to Zhou Ning and suggested, "Brother Zhou, take her back to the police station." Zhou Ning had wanted to take her back for a long time, but Muli refused to let her go. Without the doctor's permission, he could not take her away. This time she had made the first move, so it was a good opportunity. Zhou Ning took out his handcuffs. "Anqi, come with me." Suddenly, someone appeared behind Shisheng and pulled her to the back. "Officer Zhou, Anqi only splashed a dish on you. It doesn't count as assaulting a police officer." F***ck. Why didn't he make any sound when he walked? He came and went like a ghost. He scared the hell out of me. Shisheng stared at Muli's back thoughtfully. Zhou Ning looked at Muli and felt a headache coming on. This man was very strange as the lunatic behind him. "Dr. Mu, why do you keep stopping me from working on a case?" As a soldier, Zhou Ning had a strong sense of righteousness. Coupled with the male lead's halo, he was very intimidating when he was domineering. Of course, that was only for ordinary people. Shisheng did not look at him at all. He stared at the back of Muli's head, thinking about something. Muli's expression did not change. He even calmly pushed up his glasses. "Officer Zhou, I'm just ensuring the patient's safety. You don't have any proof or evidence. Why should I let you take my patient away?" Zhou Ning's face turned from green to black. For a moment he was speechless. He only had suspicions, but he did not have any evidence. "If there's nothing else, I'll take Anqi away." "Wait." Zhou Ning stopped Muli. "Anqi, don't you want to know your background?" Shisheng's eyes shifted from the back of Muli's head to Zhou Ning. He was surprised. "Officer Zhou, have you found out about my background?" "No." "Then why are you talking about it?" Shisheng rolled his eyes. Zhou Ning's face darkened again. "I've found some clues. I can tell you, but in exchange, you have to answer my questions." "I'm in a bad mood. I don't want to answer, and I don't want to know who I am. I just don't want you to solve the case." Chapter 11:20. Shisheng was such a troublemaker that Zhou Ning could not do anything about it. The other party suddenly did not care about what he thought was useful. What else could he do? And Chi, what do you know? Tell Brother Zhou. Otherwise, more people will die. Sulu suddenly turned into a caring sister. Saving a life is better than building a 7-floor pagoda. Hundreds of people die every day. If you're so powerful, why don't you save them? I can't even protect myself. How can I save people? Why doesn't anyone save I? Sulu felt that after talking to this woman, she did not want to talk to her again for the rest of her life. Sulu took a deep breath. You can't say that. When it's within our power, saving a life is a great merit. Shisheng suddenly sneered. His laughter made Suli's heart tremble. The color on her face gradually faded. She said she would not tell anyone she was sick. Even if she told anyone, who would believe her? Then, when you lured the murderer into my room, how could you forget this sentence? Huh. Her voice was neither soft nor heavy. It was not a question or a question. It was a very calm statement. What murderer? What murderer? The first question was asked by Mu Li. The second question was asked by Zhou Ning. The former's face was full of anger and was frighteningly gloomy. The latter's face was full of doubt and seriousness. Su Li's heart pounded wildly. Her eyes were filled with emotions. She opened her mouth. And Chi, what are you talking about? When did I lead the murderer to your room? Did you remember wrongly? The smile on Shisheng's face made Sulu even more nervous. A chill ran down her spine. Sulu clutched the corner of her shirt tightly. She had already thought of a way to delete the surveillance footage. She had no evidence. Shisheng did not answer that question. Instead, he asked another question. I'm curious. Why were you still outside in the middle of the night? You even met the murderer? Are you in cahoots with the murderer? It was not too late at that time. After all, there were so many doctors and nurses around. However, it was not too early either. All the patients had returned to their rooms. What was Sulu doing outside? Sulu immediately jumped up and retorted. And Chi, don't talk nonsense. How could she be in cahoots with the murderer? Sulu noticed that there was something wrong with Zhou Ning's gaze and realized that she had lost her composure. She quickly added, I don't understand what she's saying. Sulu wanted to defend herself, but when she met Shisheng's eyes, she felt as if she had been stripped naked and was standing naked in front of him. Xiaolu? Zhou Ning called out in a deep voice. Sulu quickly shook his head and tried his best to remain calm. I really don't know what she's talking about, and I don't know why she said that. Su Li's words were just short of saying that she was a lunatic. Could her words be trusted? As the male lead, how can you not believe me? According to the normal routine, male lead Darren would definitely believe female lead Darren. Sure enough, Zhou Ning patted Su Li's hand. There was no point in continuing the conversation. That lunatic would not answer any of his questions. His words were always sarcastic, which made people feel very uncomfortable. Zhou Ning thought for a moment and looked at Mu Li. Dr. Mu, I'll come back another day. Mu Li's face had been gloomy since just now. He ignored Zhou Ning when he spoke to him. Zhou Ning looked at Shisheng deeply. If you change your mind, you can give me a call. Shisheng rolled his eyes at him. He would not change his mind. Solving the case was the police's job. It had nothing to do with him. Zhou Ning ignored Shisheng's eyes and pulled Sulu out. Let's go. Sulu couldn't wait to leave this place. The two people in front of her made her breathless. Zhou Ning left with Sulu, leaving only Shisheng and Mu Li behind. Mu Li looked at her through his glasses and said in a low voice, I'll send you back. Didn't you ask me to see Zhou Ning? Why are you stopping him from taking me away now? What was this lunatic up to? Mu Li clenched his hands in his pockets and looked straight at Shisheng. He said word by word. I asked him to see you, not take you away. He paused for a moment. What murderer did you just say? Does it have anything to do with you? Shisheng snorted and walked around Mu Li. Why did she have to come out and make trouble for I? Mu Li watched her leave in silence. He didn't take out his hand until her figure disappeared. He slowly opened his palm and looked at it. His palm was pale. There was some progress in Zhou Ning's case after that. They had a new suspect. Zhou Ning had always felt that Shisheng must know something. But now that a new suspect had appeared, He had no time to waste on Shisheng, so he could only shift his attention to the new suspect. Stop right there. No, I'm not sick. I'm not eating. Shisheng's door was open. A patient suddenly ran in, followed by a caregiver. Deng Jun noticed that something was wrong and rushed in. Why did he run out of the room? The caregiver was angry. He didn't want to eat. He ran out of the room when I wasn't paying attention. Hey, give me a hand and take him back. He's so annoying. Deng Jun glanced at Shisheng. The latter was leaning against the window and looking at them coldly. He didn't react at all, like a statue. Deng Jun turned his head and called the caregiver. Come on, take him back. If they provoked the latter, they wouldn't be able to clean up the mess. I'm not taking the medicine. I'm not sick. Let me go. I'm not sick. Don't touch me. I'm not sick. You bad guys. I'm not going back. I'm not sick. I'm not taking the medicine. Deng Jun and the caregiver worked together to take the patient out. The patient struggled so hard that he took out a bottle of medicine from the caregiver's pocket. The caregiver didn't seem to notice. The medicine bottle rolled on the ground and finally rolled under the table. The patient and the caregiver quickly left. Shisheng walked to the table and bent down to pick up the medicine bottle. It was similar to the bottles in the hands of the two doctors last time. It was written in English and called neurology medicine. There was no logo on the bottle. How could medicine without a logo be in the hospital? Unless it was the hospital's own. Shisheng put the medicine bottle back into the space, walked back to the window and stood in the same position. As soon as she stood up, the caregiver ran back and hurriedly searched the floor. And did you see a medicine bottle? The caregiver didn't find it, so she looked up and asked Shisheng. I don't have time to look for your medicine bottle. I'm very busy. The caregiver was speechless. Why are you standing there? Okay, you're acting up again. #hashtag today's honeysuckle flavored vote #hashtag monthly vote #hashtag hurry up and check if you have any monthly votes in your pockets. Vote. Hashtag. Chapter 11:21. Shisheng took the opportunity to go to the 8th floor again. The place she had entered last time had been sealed, but the entire 8th floor was empty. There was nothing. Even the patient who had stayed in the ward last time was gone. It made sense. They would be stupid if they didn't move. Shisheng recalled the voice she had heard last time. She had observed all the doctors in the hospital recently, and soon found a suitable one. Shisheng sneaked out again in the dark. Coincidentally, the doctor was on duty today. Shisheng climbed to the building he was on duty and swaggered in through the front door. The system would help her deal with the surveillance cameras. In the on-call room, Shisheng looked at the words on the screen and pushed the door open. Yes. Don't stop, Shisheng. Had she entered the duty room or some kind of unspeakable place? Didn't she know how to lock the door? Wasn't she afraid of someone suddenly coming in? The lights in the on-call room were dim. Shisheng could only vaguely see 2 large lumps on the desk. The entire room was filled with that smell. Perhaps the two were too engrossed in their work and didn't notice that the door was open. When the door was fully opened, the person on the other side was startled. Who is it? The two hurriedly covered their bodies with their clothes. The doctor was braver. Who are you? No one responded. There was obviously someone standing at the door. Dr. Zhang, could it be a ghost? The nurse who was still sitting in the office took the doctor's hand and asked in a trembling voice, What nonsense are you talking about? Dr. Zhang scolded and put on his clothes hastily. He and the nurse were the only ones on duty today. Who was standing at the door? Dr. Zhang put on his pants. The person on the other side didn't respond. He took his belt and walked to the side to turn on the lights. The incandescent light flickered twice and the on-call room lit up. The doctor saw the person standing at the door clearly. Dr. Zhang's eyes widened in surprise. It's you. It wasn't she. Why are you here? She should be in the inpatient department. Why was she here? What were the people in the inpatient department doing? Shisheng entered, closed the door and locked it. He cracked a smile and said, Dr. Zhang, I have something to ask you. Dr. Zhang's expression suddenly froze. Why did he suddenly feel that the surrounding temperature had dropped? Dr. Zhang shuddered and snapped back to reality. He scolded. How did you get here? There were people guarding the inpatient department 24/7, so it was impossible for her to come here. That's not important. Shisheng waved his hand. What we need to talk about now is, do you want to answer my question, or do you want to die? Dr. Zhang's eyes widened slightly. That's not important. You ran out of the inpatient department. How dare he threaten him? How bold of him. On second thought, she was a lunatic. How could she believe her words? He quickly rummaged through the table, and finally found his phone under the nurse's butt. Ignoring the strange liquid on it, he quickly dialed the number. However, there was no signal on the phone, so he couldn't make the call at all. Dr. Zhang felt a chill in his heart. He reached for the landline on the table, but the landline also couldn't make the call. There's one last way to call for help. Dr. Zhang, do you want to make the call? The girl's clear voice echoed in the room. It was a very pleasant voice, but when it fell into Dr. Zhang's ears, it was as if layers of ice had formed on his skin. Dr. Zhang slowly put down the phone. What do you want? Shisheng pulled out a chair and sat on it. He crossed his legs and looked at him. Don't be nervous. I just want to ask you a few questions. What do you want to ask? Dr. Zhang tugged at his clothes and moved closer to the table. Dr. Zhang, you'd better not move. Otherwise, I can't be sure if my hand won't slip and kill you. You only have one life. Of course, the choice is yours. If you want to die, I can't stop you, right? Dr. Zhang froze on the spot. He turned his neck mechanically and looked at the girl who was sitting there without a care for her image. Some people were born with a kind of aura. They didn't need to do anything. Just sitting there, they could make people afraid. Dr. Zhang had felt it on Muli before. He didn't expect to feel it on another patient not long after. It was fine if it was a normal person, but she was a psychopath. How could a psychopath have such a strong aura? Dr. Zhang weighed the pros and cons and finally decided to pounce on the table. The nurse was already standing in the corner, covering her mouth and looking at the situation in front of her in horror. Dr. Zhang opened the bottom drawer and rummaged through it. Then he pointed the black muzzle at Shisheng. Dr. Zhang felt as if he had found a safe refuge after getting the gun. He heaved a sigh of relief. Who brought you here? He didn't believe that a psychopath like her could come here from the inpatient department. Was it Muli? It's none of his business. Shisheng rolled his eyes. There were always perverts who wanted to steal the credit for my... Dr. Zhang threatened. And Chi, if I pull the trigger, you'll die. You'd better tell me who brought you here. Where is he? Shisheng didn't think much of it. Then shoot. Dr. Zhang tightened his grip on the gun and took a few steps toward Shisheng. Do you think I don't dare? Shisheng continued to roll his eyes. I didn't say you don't dare. I told you to shoot. I didn't mean anything else. I meant it literally. Why do you have to think so much? Can you hurry up? It's my turn after you're done acting cool. You're so slow. Serves you right for being cannon fodder. Dr. Zhang was tired of encountering such a fearless and provocative person. This girl didn't follow the normal route. He didn't know how to react. Should he fire the gun or not? Just as Dr. Zhang was hesitating, the girl in front of him suddenly stood up. Dr. Zhang was so scared that he trembled and pulled the trigger. There was a silencer on the gun. The bullet shot out silently and went straight for Shisheng. Shisheng calmly drew his iron sword and blocked the bullet with it. The bullet hit the sword and bounced back with a clang. Dr. Zhang stared at the iron sword in Shisheng's hand with wide eyes. The sword had appeared out of thin air just now. Where did she get the sword from? Was it magic? Oh, she's dead. The girl's crisp voice pulled Dr. Zhang back to reality. He glanced at the nurse's station from the corner of his eye. The nurse who was standing just a moment ago had fallen to the ground. Her eyes were wide open, and she looked like she had died with a grievance. There were obvious bullet marks between the nurse's eyebrows. The bullet had hit her. Shisheng held the sword and laughed gloatingly. You were the one who shot her. I was just defending myself. Dr. Zhang turned around and saw a smiling face. How could she laugh when she was already dead? She was crazy. No, she was a crazy person to begin with. Asterisk. This is a fake group. Dr. Zhang. Why am I so unlucky? There are so many people out there. Why did she come to me? Little fairy, because she's heard your voice before. Dr. Zhang, is it my fault? Little fairy. Otherwise, is it still mine? Dr. Zhang. Don't you want the ticket? Little fairy, you don't have it. Dr. Zhang. How dare you discriminate against me? Little fairy, you don't have it. Dr. Zhang. Chapter 11:22. And she let go of me. What do you want? Dr. Zhang was tied up and thrown in the middle of the on-call room. He struggled and glared at Shisheng. This lunatic swish. The iron sword drew an arc in the air. A cold light flashed in Dr. Zhang's eyes. The next moment, he saw the iron sword stuck in the ground in front of him. He didn't know how she took the sword out, but as a doctor who grew up under the influence of science, he was more inclined to believe that she hid the sword somewhere and didn't make it appear out of thin air. Weren't there many props on the market? Although the sword looked cold and threatening, and didn't look like a prop, Dr. Zhang could only comfort himself that it was a fake. When a person was unwilling to believe something, they would try their best to tell themselves that it was fake, that it was all fake. Dr. Zhang, I've given you a chance. You didn't run away. So now answer my question. I don't know. I don't know anything. Dr. Zhang roared angrily. Shisheng twirled the iron sword. The cold light reflected from the sword flashed in the room. I haven't asked you yet. How do you know that you don't know? Dr. Zhang gritted his teeth. No matter what you want to ask, I don't know. It seems that Dr. Zhang doesn't want to live anymore. Shisheng's voice suddenly sank. The iron sword was pressed against Dr. Zhang's neck. Why don't I send Dr. Zhang down now to talk about life with the person next to you? Dr. Zhang's face turned pale. He didn't want to die. Shisheng pressed the iron sword down and asked, where did the people on the 8th floor go? Dr. Zhang was most afraid that she would ask this question. Now that she asked this question, he felt relieved. I don't know. It's not my responsibility. What are they doing on the 8th floor? I don't know. Shisheng interrupted Dr. Zhang. Dr. Zhang, answer me carefully. This sword hasn't seen blood for a long time. Dr. Zhang's entire body was trembling. The cold air emitted by the sword was constantly rushing into his body. He felt as if he was sitting on an Antarctic glacier, and he was even naked. He panted heavily, his chest rising and falling rapidly. Just now, the nurse had died in front of her, but she did not feel any psychological burden because of the dead person. She even smiled and threatened him. The evaluation in the file said that if she committed a crime, she would definitely be a very difficult criminal. In the end, Dr. Zhang gritted his teeth and denied, I don't know. As soon as he finished speaking, the iron sword on his neck sank a little deeper, and he seemed to hear the sound of the blade cutting through his skin. However, he knew that it was an illusion. When the sword slit his neck, there was no sound at all. The pain seemed to have been slowed down for half a minute. Only when the blood flowed out did he feel the pain. The warm liquid flowed down his neck and instantly turned cold. Stop. I'll talk. Dr. Zhang suddenly panicked. He didn't want to die, Dr. Zhang said. 8th floor. After Dr. Zhang finished speaking, he carefully looked at the girl sitting opposite him. That's all I know. I don't know anything else. Shisheng did not respond for a long time. Even Dr. Zhang did not dare to breathe loudly. He was afraid that if he breathed out too much, his neck would be cut off. After a while, Shisheng withdrew the sword and slowly spat out 2 words, beast. Dr. Zhang did not dare to speak. He was only doing this for the money. He was not the real mastermind behind this. He reached out to his neck to stop the bleeding. If this continued, he would bleed to death. I've said everything I wanted to say. Can I leave now? Shisheng raised his chin and said, write down the name list. Write down all the information clearly. But if he betrayed them, would he still be alive? Shisheng seemed to know what Dr. Zhang was thinking. He sneered and said, you might not even be alive now. Even if I don't kill you. Do you think they will let you live after knowing that you told me about this? You've already betrayed them. You don't mind betraying them even more. You forced me to do this. Shisheng shrugged and said. It doesn't matter whether I forced you or not. This is the result. Do you think those crazy people will care about the process? Dr. Zhang's face was pale. His forehead was covered with cold sweat. She was right. If they knew that he had betrayed them, they would never let him go. Not only him, but also his family. Shisheng gave Dr. Zhang enough time to think. After a while he said, Can you promise that you won't tell anyone? No. Dr. Zhang's eyes widened. Then why should I? Swish. Shisheng laughed arrogantly and confidently. Do you have any other choice? Dr. Zhang wrote down a list of names resignedly. This is what I know. I haven't seen many of them. Even if I have seen some of them, I don't know them. Shisheng took the list and glanced at it. The 8th floor is now abandoned. Where did they transfer the patients? Dr. Zhang had already lowered his resistance. There's a laboratory building behind the hospital that is about to be demolished. Last time, a patient ran away from the 7th floor. Where did you lock him up after you caught him? What's his name? Dr. Zhang seemed to be trying to recall. That. I don't know. I only saw him once. After that he was taken away. I don't know where he went. Shisheng frowned. After thinking for a few seconds, he stood up with the help of his sword. Last question. Who am I? Dr. Zhang hesitated. Enqi. Shisheng repeated. Who was I before I came here? He was asking about her background. Dr. Zhang was considered an old employee of the hospital. He knew a lot. When she was sent here, he was still by her side. Who would have thought that a day like this would come? Dr. Zhang composed himself and shook his head. The person who sent you here left after dropping you off. Your file is also blank. However, you have a large sum of money in your bank account. We were afraid that there would be problems, so we didn't touch you. So no one knows where I came from? Not really. Dr. Zhang swallowed. The doctor who received you back then was Professor Hu Shu. He talked to the person who sent you here. He should know something. Where is he? He's retired, Shisheng thought for a while. She didn't have any more questions to ask. She took her sword and walked out. About what happened today. She paused, turned around and grinned. You can tell whoever you want. I wasn't afraid. Dr. Zhang was dumbfounded. Shouldn't she threaten him not to tell anyone? Why would he say such a thing? This didn't make sense. Bang. The door of the on-call room was slammed shut. The entire room fell into a dead silence. Asterisk, I might have a bunch of fake cherub. What happened to loving me until the end of our lives? We promised to look at the stars and moon together, talk about our dreams and life together, and kiss and touch each other. Where are you guys? Flip's table. Go to bed and sleep. Chapter 11:23. Shisheng walked down from the building. She stood at the entrance and suddenly thought of the dead body. Dr. Zhang, that idiot, should know how to deal with it, right? That idiot had died a horrible death. She just didn't know how he would deal with it. Should she call the police? Shisheng searched her pockets but found nothing. She didn't have her phone, forget it. She should go back to sleep. Shisheng walked back to the house unhurriedly. She didn't know when the night wind started blowing, but the plants around her were rustling. Da-da-da. The sound of footsteps, accompanied by heavy breathing, came closer and closer. A figure was running towards her. He looked panicked, as if something was chasing after him. Shisheng quickly hid in the dark. A white figure was walking slowly toward them from afar. His pace was neither fast nor slow, as if he was taking a stroll in the garden. It was a stark contrast to the person running in front of him. As the white figure got closer, Shisheng saw his face clearly. Muli, ah! Police, there's a psychopath here. The person in front of him tripped and fell to the ground. He didn't get up for a long time. Muli was already in front of him. He looked down at the person. He wasn't wearing his glasses. It was so long ago. I really don't remember. Let me go. Please let me go. The person cried and begged for mercy. He was very scared. Muli didn't say anything. He just looked at him quietly. The night wind fluttered his white coat. It fluttered in the air, and then calmed down. Please let me go. I beg you. I don't want to die. Please. Muli bent down slightly and whispered something in the person's ear. The person was terrified. The next second, his face turned pale and his body trembled like a sieve. Muli fed him something. He suddenly struggled violently and was finally pinned to the ground by Muli. The person stopped moving quickly. Muli released him and stood up slowly. Shisheng was speechless. What a coincidence. No, I didn't kill anyone. It was self-defense. Shisheng looked at Muli again. There was only a body lying on the ground. Muli was gone. What the F***ck? Can this psychopath fly? He disappeared in the blink of an eye. What are you doing here? A cold voice suddenly sounded from behind the Shisheng, and a burst of cold air came from behind. Shisheng froze for a moment before turning around calmly. Dr. Mu, what a coincidence. You've killed people too? Muli had already put on his glasses, and his eyes narrowed. Did you kill someone? No, I was just defending myself. Dr. Zhang was the one who fired the shot. She was just blocking it for a moment. Who asked that nurse to be so unlucky to be standing there? Anyway, she wasn't going to take the blame. Even if it was her fault, she would not take the blame. That was how willful she was. Have you disposed of the body? Shisheng. Your reaction is a little strange. Muli didn't get an answer, so he asked again, have you cleaned it up? No. Shisheng opened her mouth. There was still a living person around. What was she going to do? Muli adjusted his glasses and pondered for a moment. Take me there. Shisheng raised his eyebrows. You haven't even dealt with your own body, and you still have the time to care about me? Muli glanced over. There's no need. He died of a heart attack. It has nothing to do with me. Shisheng. Maybe I have an unrealistic guess. Muli looked away and looked at her through his glasses. Who did you kill? Where is the body? I don't know. Shisheng smiled. Dr. Mu, are you going to help me dispose of the body? Muli didn't answer. Instead, he repeated his previous question. Where is the body? Shisheng pointed at a building in the distance. Dr. Zhang's on-call room. Go back to the ward. Muli left this sentence, walked around Shisheng and headed towards the building. Shisheng put his hands on his hips and pouted. He then chased after Muli. Dr. Mu, are you going to help me dispose of the body? Muli stopped abruptly. He seemed a little angry. He lowered his voice and said, Anchi, go back. Let me ask you a question. I'll go back if you answer me. Muli took a deep breath. Go ahead. On May 19th, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, did you come to the ward where I was hospitalized? Yes, Muli answered quickly. Now go back. Shisheng. F***ck your retarded system. She had thought that the man was Feng Ci when he rushed down the stairs, and the system had given her a mission. Host, that was just a coincidence. They appeared at the same time. It's not my fault. Don't push all the blame onto me. The system has a temper too. Shisheng was furious. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been able to sense his presence. Would I have to rely on my intuition to identify him? It didn't cause any trouble. Shisheng took a deep breath. He didn't want to argue with the retard. He would deal with it slowly after he cracked the program left behind by his retarded master. Shisheng looked at Muli. Someone will dispose of the body. You don't have to go. Muli frowned. He felt a little strange. It had only been a few minutes. Why did she seem like a different person? It seemed like she was less guarded against him. Dr. Mu, take me back to the ward. I'm still. Muli's voice trailed off. He glanced at the building. Let's go. There was still a long way to the inpatient ward. Muli walked on Shisheng's left. Shisheng walked slowly, so Muli followed him. Shisheng thought for a moment. Dr. Mu, I killed someone. Don't you have any other thoughts? His behavior just now was really strange. What thoughts? Muli's voice was very calm. How would I know what thoughts you have? Shisheng didn't ask any more questions. Muli didn't speak either. As they approached the inpatient ward, Muli suddenly said, And she? Yes. Muli paused and asked her. Do you want to leave? Why? Do you want to get me out? I can do that if you want. Dr. Mu, have you forgotten that I don't know anything? I don't even have an ID. How can I live outside? Or, Shisheng turned his head. Dr. Mu, are you willing to take me in? Mu Li's hands tightened in his pockets. He lowered his eyes. I'll arrange a new identity for you. Don't worry. You're not going to take me in. Why should I leave? Shisheng snorted. I'm going back. Shisheng strode towards the building and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Mu Li stood there for a long time. He took out his phone and dialed a number. Get rid of the surveillance footage. Mu Li was about to hang up when the other party hurriedly said, Wait, Brother Mu. There's something I need to tell you. Speak. You weren't in the footage you were in just now. What do you mean? Mu Li frowned. I mean, someone has already tampered with the footage without my knowledge. There's no trace. Brother Mu, I'm worried. Chapter 1124. Shisheng did not hear anything about the death of a doctor in the hospital the next day. The nurses did not seem to know anything about it. It seemed that these people did not know that a doctor had died. When Mu Li came to check on her in the afternoon, Shisheng was still lying on the bed. Get up. Mu Li stood by the bed and looked down at her. Shisheng rolled his eyes and looked behind him. I don't want to see these unruly people. The group of unruly nurses were speechless. How did they become unruly people? Mu Li stared at Shisheng for a few seconds and turned around. You can leave now. Mu Li appeared very gentle and refined in front of outsiders, but if one listened carefully, one would realize that there was no warmth in his voice at all. After Mu Li's people left, Shisheng stretched out his hand. Give me a hand. Mu Li reached out to hold her hand gently. And think about it. I'll take you out of here. I'm sick. Why should I leave? Mu Li withdrew his hand and put it back in his pocket. You've recovered, he said slowly. Why do you have to take me out? Shisheng looked at him sideways. Am I interfering with your plan? Mu Li remained silent. He looked away. I'll take you out in 3 days. It was a question, but now it was a conclusion. Dr. Mu, I was an eyewitness last night. If you dare do anything, I'll tell the police about it. Mu Li glanced at her from the corner of his eye. They won't believe you. Shisheng smiled smugly. I'm sorry, but I've backed up the surveillance footage. Mu Li was speechless. Although Mu Li had guessed that it was her, he was still very surprised when he actually heard it. Dr. Mu, you have your own things to do, and so do I. Let's mind our own business, shall we? Shisheng paused. Mu Li frowned. Is there anything else? Shisheng half knelt on the bed and placed his hands on Mu Li's shoulders. Just as Mu Li was puzzled, he suddenly lowered his head and kissed him. The girl's fragrance mixed with the smell of disinfectant flowed into his mouth from between his lips and teeth, and the familiar smell exploded in his mouth. Mu Li's eyes widened slightly. The throbbing of his heart made him feel a little uncomfortable, as if he couldn't breathe. He took a deep breath and sucked all the oxygen out of his Shisheng's mouth. Only then did he feel better. He suddenly took a step back. The Shisheng lost its support and fell off the bed. Shisheng, who had fallen to the ground, got up with a dark expression. Are you crazy? If you suddenly backed out, would you be able to afford the compensation if something happened to the eye? Mu Li was still backing away. He looked a little panicked, as if Shisheng had done something to him. Shisheng rolled his eyes. It's just a kiss. Why are you overreacting? You've never been kissed before? Mu Li's Adam's apple bobbed twice, and his pale lips moved. No. Then he yanked the door open and strode out. Shisheng. What was going on? Didn't he take a knife from me before? Wasn't it because he subconsciously liked me? Shisheng couldn't figure out Mu Li's tricks at all. On second thought, his wife turned out to be a pervert this time. He felt even more upset. No, he had to break it up properly. She didn't like perverts. His wife had to be cute. Outside the door, Mu Li stood against the wall. His heart was beating so fast that it felt like it was going to jump out of his chest. He panted slightly. His mind was filled with the image of her kissing him just now. He could still feel her warmth on his lips. What did that feel like? Mu Li didn't know. It was the first time in his life that he had felt this way. Dr. Mu? Are you okay? Muli pursed his lips. Then he seemed to have thought of something and quickly let go. He turned and walked towards the other ward. I'm fine. Continue. The nurse. They had just checked Dr. Mu. Continue what? The nurse called him a few times before Muli came back to his senses. He asked the nurse in a daze. What? The nurse asked carefully. Dr. Mu, are you feeling unwell? He felt unwell. His heart felt uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable. The high frequency of his heartbeat continued. But what made him feel even more uncomfortable was the woman in the other ward. I'm fine. Muli suppressed the strange emotions in his heart. Continue. The nurse saw that Muli was still walking forward. She quickly said, Dr. Mu, we came from that direction just now. Muli glanced in front. Then, he calmly turned around and walked back without saying a word. When he passed by Shisheng's ward, he glanced sideways. The room was empty. There was no one in sight. He looked away and quickly left the ward. Shisheng didn't see Muli for 2 days. The head nurse was the one doing the rounds. Shisheng asked her where Muli had gone, but the head nurse didn't say anything. Then, Shisheng threw a tantrum. The head nurse couldn't handle the sick Shisheng, so she could only invite Muli over. Muli was invited over with a bad expression. He glanced at the room and stood far away. What's wrong? You have to drive I crazy just to see you. Dr. Mu, you're so arrogant. Shisheng stood barefoot on the ground. There were some things scattered around him. It was a mess. Muli frowned. She was angry. Muli didn't know why this thought popped up in his head. He lowered his eyes. I'm busy. Shisheng's eyes were cold. I'll ask you one last time. Why do you want me to leave? Muli put his hands back into the pocket of his white coat. After a moment of silence, he said, Someone asked me to. Shisheng. She knew this idiot wouldn't take the initiative. Who? There was someone out there who still cared about the original owner? I'll tell you once you leave. What if I don't? The original owner's final wish was to leave, but she still had 2 tasks to complete. She still hadn't dealt with this idiot. How could she leave? Muli pursed his lips. Then I'll use special means to send you away. Shisheng raised his eyebrows. Special means? You want to kidnap me? How dare you have such a dangerous idea? You're really trying to take advantage of me after not seeing me for 3 days. And it's dangerous here. Shisheng raised his chin slightly and said arrogantly, So what? Would she be afraid of those people? Muli retreated to the door. Think about it again. I won't leave until I'm done with my work. I'm a dedicated player. Muli paused for a moment, opened the door and walked out. Shisheng could only look at his back. Nonsense. You said you would do it if you didn't want to. How could you have the cheek to say that? Shisheng snorted. What's the point of being shameless? It's not like you can eat it. I'm actually speechless. My host keeps going offline. What should I do? It's urgent. I'm waiting online hashtag. Chapter 11:25. For the next few days, Muli came to check in every day. However, every time he checked in, he would ask her if she had made up her mind. Then, Shisheng would think that Muli was a beast dressed in human clothing and find him an eyesore. Annoyed, Shisheng went to look for the people on the list given to him by Dr. Zhang. It was too troublesome to visit them one by one, so Shisheng grabbed all of them and brought them to the 8th floor of the abandoned building. Can you imagine the horror of someone breaking in the middle of the night and waking up to find yourself tied up? Holding the list, Shisheng said slowly under everyone's horrified gazes, I'm going to call the roll now. Squeak when you're here. Everyone was speechless. Did he think they were rats? Squeak. Squeak my ass. However, they had no choice but to lower their heads. When Shisheng called the roll, they could only squeak in frustration. After the roll call, Shisheng rested his chin on his hand and said, Very good. Now it's time for a quiz. Whoever answers faster and correctly has a higher chance of survival. Everyone's mouths were gagged, so they could only make monosyllabic sounds. Shisheng stepped forward and tore the tape off their mouths. Once their mouths were free, someone immediately shouted, Enchi, are you crazy? Let us go. What are you talking about? I'm only here because I'm sick. Who would be mentally retarded in a mental hospital if they were not sick? Sheng's words made their expressions change. That's right. She was a psychopath. One of them shouted for help. Help! Help! Someone! Stop howling. No one will come to save you even if you scream yourself hoarse. Sheng couldn't help but roll his eyes. Don't waste time. I'm going to start asking questions. Good luck to those who are slow to answer. Who is the person in charge of this plan? No one answered. Many of them were still screaming for help. Sheng picked his ear and suddenly took out his iron sword. He stabbed it in front of the person who was screaming the loudest. The screaming stopped abruptly. Sheng asked again. Who is the person in charge of this plan? Still no one answered. Very good. The corners of Sheng's mouth curled up slightly. He pulled out his iron sword and directly stabbed at a person. That person roared. Hu Hai, it's Hu Hai. He told us to do this. Go and find him. The iron sword stopped abruptly. The blade was only a finger's width away from him. He could feel the cold air blowing against his face. He didn't doubt that if he didn't make a sound, the sword would have pierced his chest. Since she was able to bring so many of them here, killing people was probably not a big deal to her. Suddenly, an unpleasant smell floated in the air. That person's body trembled, and liquid slowly flowed out from the ground. He was actually so scared that he lost control of his bladder. Sheng took a step back in disdain. Hu Hai, he was the vice president of the hospital. Where is he? Abroad. Hu Hai went abroad and will be back in a few days. Sheng made a sound of acknowledgement. When did you guys start? 13 years ago. Other than experimenting on patients, what else have you done? These people were scattered. One person's information was limited, but when they worked together, they could almost connect all the clues together. 13 years ago, Hu Hai started experimenting on patients in the hospital. Human experiments had always been forbidden, let alone live experiments. Hu Hai definitely couldn't do it alone, so he dragged the people in the hospital down with him. Some did it for money, some were forced. In any case, no matter the reason, Hu Hai had a group of people on his side in the end. First, they used drugs to make the patients appear more ill, and caused some trouble in the hospital. Then they informed the patients' families that they died because of an accident due to illness. When these people were sent to be cremated, their bodies would be replaced by their own people. In reality, those people were still alive. The families they chose were the kind that couldn't afford the expenses, and didn't seem to have much affection for each other. When these people died, it was like a heavy burden had been lifted off their shoulders. They had been doing this for so many years. The death rate of people in the mental hospital was very high, but no one discovered it. Researching these things naturally required a lot of money. In order to support this, Hu Hai started a business. He let those rich people abuse these patients. They provided the money, and Hu Hai provided them with targets to abuse. This formed a chain of interests. You guys are really crazy. Sheng frowned in disgust. There was no lack of crazy people in this world. What was lacking was a pair of eyes that could see the truth, and the courage and strength to expose the truth. We were forced. They didn't want to do it, but Hu Hai had something on them. If they didn't do it, they would lose not only their jobs, but also their everything. Hu Hai had a complicated relationship with those rich people behind him. They couldn't win against him at all. They could only submit to his tyranny and do these crazy things. Sheng turned around to look for the system. Is my current mission considered complete? The system's voice sounded after a while. No. But face, I'll give you a chance to talk. The clue for the side mission is still Muli. How can the system submit to your tyranny? No means no. Sheng. Now that he had figured out the ins and outs of the whole thing, it was a bunch of crazy people who were stirring up trouble. What other problems could there be? What did Muli have to do with this? This is the host's mission. Sheng. Useless. Master, the host is attacking me again. Sheng wandered around the room for a while. Is Muli one of your people? Muli? They shook their heads. But Hu Hai asked us to keep an eye on Muli. Shisheng tied them up and jumped out of the window to look for Muli. As soon as he arrived, he saw the female lead sneaking out. Shisheng was puzzled. He thought for a while and followed her. Sulu walked very carefully, avoiding all the surveillance cameras. She didn't reach out her hands like she usually did. Shisheng was a bit surprised. This female lead didn't seem to be as stupid as she appeared to be. She didn't even realize that her acting skills were enough to win an Oscar. How could a female lead in a dark genre be so stupid? Shisheng rolled his eyes and followed Sulu all the way out of the mental hospital. She walked for a long distance, stopping from time to time to observe her surroundings. She was very cautious. Shisheng secretly wanted to jump out and kill Sulu. This was such a good opportunity. Just as Shisheng was about to jump out, 2 cars suddenly drove over from afar. Several people got out of the cars. Sulu was stunned. She probably sensed that something was wrong, so she turned around and ran. The people behind her quickly caught up with her. Sulu resisted for a while before she was pinned down by the people behind her. They quickly stuffed her into the car and took her away. Shisheng was dumbfounded. Was the female lead bound to be kidnapped when she wanted to cause trouble? No, put down the female lead, Sama. Hey, let I do it. Asterisk the normal group went online. 4512444066. There are no restrictions. Hashtag asking for oleander flavored tickets today. Hashtag asking for monthly tickets this weekend. Hashtag if you have monthly tickets in your pocket, please take them out. Chapter 11:26. Shisheng walked out of the darkness onto the road and scratched his head. Should he chase her now? Or should he not? There were always idiots trying to steal the female lead's head. While Shisheng was still considering whether to chase her or not, 2 cars came from afar and stopped right in front of her. The headlights shone on her and the whole space lit up instantly. The people in the cars quickly got out and pointed their guns at her. Don't move, police. Shisheng. You don't need to shout I to know you're a police officer. Idiot. The 2 policemen approached Shisheng and one of them shouted again. Raise your hands, put your hands on your head and squat down. Shisheng was unmoved and asked calmly. Do you want me to raise my hands or put my hands on my head? The policemen were silent for a few seconds. Put your hands on your head and squat down. Shisheng spun the iron sword and said with a faint smile. Your little white rabbit has been kidnapped. Aren't you going to chase her? The plot didn't mention why the female lead was in a mental hospital, but she was a normal person. Based on the current plot, the female lead was most likely a spy. Perhaps the female lead had been infected by the mental hospital for too long and was a little retarded. Who are you? The policeman looked at Shisheng suspiciously. This girl was standing here in the middle of the night and surrounded by them, but she didn't show any reaction that a normal person should have. It was really strange. Shisheng suddenly raised his hand, making the policeman nervous. Shisheng rolled his eyes at them and then recited with deep emotion. I am the light that guides you in the dark, illuminating the foggy road for you. The policeman. Where did this Chinibu come from? What did you see? The policeman who had checked the scene didn't find anything and gathered around Shisheng. I saw someone being kidnapped. Shisheng restrained his exaggerated expression and told the truth. Policeman A asked, by whom? Shisheng rolled his eyes at the policeman who asked the question. How would I know? They're not here to kidnap me. Why was this girl so annoying? Policeman A resisted the urge to hit her and continued to ask, why are you here? Shisheng scratched his head. Sleepwalking. The policeman. Sleepwalking here? Do you think this is your backyard? What's his name? What? Shisheng suddenly exploded. Don't think you're so great just because you're the police. Are you allowed to ask a girl's name? Policeman A's face darkened. Stop pestering me. What are you shouting for? Shisheng also raised his voice. My name is Inchi, the police officer. There was definitely something wrong with this girl. A police officer came down with a laptop. Captain, we can't contact them. The locator is no longer working. Shisheng raised his eyebrows. Sulu is really your spy. As soon as he said this, The surrounding voices suddenly quieted down. What did she just say? They didn't say anything just now, so how did she find out? The man who was addressed as Captain immediately fixed his sharp gaze on Shisheng and asked sternly, "Do you know Su Lu? He's a ward mate." "Of course I know him. Ward mates. This woman is from a mental hospital. From the looks of it. No one would believe her." The captain sized up Shisheng several times and waved his hand. "Take him back." This woman had appeared here out of nowhere and said such a thing. It was hard not to be suspicious. Shisheng raised his hand to stop them. "Hey, be reasonable. I didn't break the law. You have no right to take me away. Please cooperate with our investigation and tell us everything you know. If you prove that you're not guilty, we won't do anything to you." Shisheng's eyes curved. "You want to know? I won't tell you." She picked up the iron sword. "I'm going back to sleep. If you need anything, please make an appointment with my doctor. Bye." Several policemen wanted to stop Shisheng, but Shisheng knocked them down and quickly disappeared into the darkness. The policemen soon lost their target. "Captain, we didn't manage to catch her. That woman is too fast. She disappeared in the blink of an eye. What the hell? We must find Su Lu." The captain's face darkened. "I'm going to Zhongshan Hospital. Let's move." Shisheng did not go back to the hospital. Instead, he went to Muli's place. Muli did not live in the hospital. Shisheng happened to see his address. It was a very ordinary neighborhood. Shisheng climbed over the wall and climbed up the window. It was the middle of the night. The room was dark and quiet. It seemed that no one was there. Muli was not there. Shisheng found the landline in Muli's room and called him. Muli was dumbfounded when he received the call. It took him a while to answer the call. A familiar voice came from the other end of the line. It was soft and gentle. "Muli, where are you?" Muli threw the man away and stepped on his chest. After a while he asked, "Why are you in my house?" "I miss you." How on earth did she get to his house? After 3 seconds of silence, Muli sighed in his heart. "Wait." Muli hung up the phone and looked at the man on the floor. Who else was involved? "I don't know. I really don't know. I was just a nobody back then." The man's face was covered with tears and snot. "Muli, I really didn't take part. They did it. Muli's voice was harsh. "Then you deserve to die." "No." Muli changed into a set of clean clothes and returned home. The lights in the living room were on. A small figure was sitting on the sofa and changing the TV channel. When she heard the door open, she immediately turned around with an unfriendly expression. "I've been waiting for you for an hour." "I'm sorry." After apologizing, Muli was stunned. Why was he apologizing? He had not settled the score with her for trespassing. Muli put down the keys and opened the door. He rubbed his fingers on the doorknob. "How did you get in?" Shisheng glanced at the window. "Through the window." Muli's face darkened. "This is the 7th floor." Shisheng nodded. "Yes. It was a little difficult to climb up, so I flew in the end." Muli turned on all the lights in the living room. "Acting up again?" Shisheng let out a long sigh. "Lovesick." Muli froze. He walked to the water dispenser and poured a glass of water for Shisheng. "Why are you looking for me?" Shisheng held the glass and muttered, "I offended the police just now. They might be looking for you." Muli's mouth twitched. "Why would they look for me if you offended the police?" "Why would she offend the police in the middle of the night? What did she do?" "Because you're my attending doctor." Shisheng looked sincere. "Well, that's not important." Muli was speechless. "That's not important? What's important?" "I'm here to ask you something." "What is it?" "Why would you come through the window in the middle of the night?" Shisheng tilted his head and met his gaze. "Do you like me? Asterisk. This is a fake group. Little fairy. Do you guys like me? Cherub yes. Little fairy. I like you guys too. Shy emoji system. You're not asking for votes today? Little fairy. I just want to confess. System. Who would believe that? Little fairy, get lost. System. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.